4 races remain in the NTT INDYCAR Series, and 4 drivers are engaged in a fierce fight to be #1 in this championship. But only one of that top quartet has never actually been the champion. That's Alexander Rossi. The Andretti Autosport driver has his future set after recently re-signing with the team. Comes to Pocono, the defending race winner. So is today the day he makes his move to be the series top driver. Points leader Joseph Newgarden, Indy 500 winner Simon Pagenaud, and reigning series champion Scott Dixon will all be doing their very best to prevent that from happening right here at Pocono Raceway today, over 500 flat-out miles. And it is a sunny day, but it is warm, it is quite humid. However, just in the last couple of minutes, a light breeze has started to blow, which will make things somewhat more comfortable for the fans in the stands and all of the drivers as we welcome you down here trackside right at the head of the grid as we get ready for 500 exciting miles today, this afternoon, the second and final 500-mile race. Hi, folks. Lee Diffie along with Townsend Bell, Paul Tracy. We're also joined by some pretty special company, the Astor Cup, which is, of course, given to the champion at the end of each season. Now, there's been a 3-week break, fellas, since Mid-Ohio, which has been a welcome break. Some drivers went overseas, some decided to stay home, some even got married. But, Paul, particularly at this stage of the season, how important is just a little pause moment, a chance to reset?
Well, it's crucial for the teams because they need a break to go through these cars. The drivers need an opportunity to get their fitness back going, get their diets back in the right frame of mind. But Joseph Newgarden, he wanted to get right back into it. With that mistake, he wanted it the next race right away.
As we said at the top of the show, Townsend, 4 drivers in this championship hunt, 4 races remaining on 4 very, very different racetracks. How big a role is Pocono, this very special 3-corner track, going to play in it today?
This place is unique. It's super fast. It also happens to be the most dangerous track that we go to. Put aside the physical danger for a second. From a championship standpoint, this place can be dangerous because the tiniest mistake can put you into one of these walls and you'll finish right at the back, and it'll massively impact your championship run. So for those 4 drivers, they need a strong, clean finish, but they have to push.
In this NTT INDYCAR Series field, there is only one 5-time champion, and that is Chip Ganassi Racing's Scott Dixon. 3 weeks ago at Mid-Ohio, he began his run for a 6th title.
Just 5 races remain leading to the finale, and 4 are very much still in play for the championship, and they all start near the front today.
Here comes Scott Dixon.
He's got the draft early this time. Does he have enough speed? Oh, over under.
The shake and bake.
To the inside, Dixon. This time will make it stick. Dixon picks up the position.
Dixon, he's gone now.
Inside the final 10, it's Scott Dixon in control, but look at that gap decrease. Felix Rosenqvist inside 5 seconds now.
Rosenqvist, is he going to go for the win?
You got this, Felix. Remember, it's your teammate. Make it clean.
Dixon trying to defend from his rookie teammate. They come together in the keyhole. Nearly touch. He'll look around the inside. Now try to swing to the outside. The teammates are side by side. Final corner. Dixon wiggles to the line. Rosenqvist on his gearbox dives into the side, and Scott Dixon will win.
Closest ever IndyCar finish at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. That was exhilarating. So over the last 3 races, the championship leader, Newgarden, has amassed 102 points. 93 for Rossi, 116 for Pagenaud, but with 2 seconds and a first, Scott Dixon has the momentum. He's got his mojo back and is looking most dangerous there in 4th place. Let's hear from the Iceman. He's with Dylan Welsh.
And Lee, having momentum on your side is never a bad thing, especially when you're chasing back-to-back championships. That's exactly what this guy, Scott Dixon, has. Lee mentioned 2 second-place finishes and a win the last 3 races. As we kind of hit this final stretch of races this year, do you feel like your team is peaking at the right time?
Well, you know, you hope so, but honestly, you know, we just try to do the same thing all the time and try and really, I think, chase on the bad results we had from last season and really improve on those, make the cars better. You know, last week was fantastic, you know, to have both a 1-2 for PNC Bank and also for NTT was fantastic. It was definitely a crazy race and maybe not so good on our strategy towards the end, but, you know, it definitely made for something good to watch. But we'll keep our head down. That's all we can do. We're still 60-plus points out, and that's not going to be easy, especially over over the competition that we have right now.
500 miles, a long day in the office today. Can you keep that top 2 streak alive?
That's the goal. We want to go back to victory lane here. We've come close a few times. Last year was nice to finish on the podium with not such a good car. Rossi dominated, so I think this weekend, with a lot of different variables and different tires and different aero kit from what we had last year, could make for an interesting race. But I think the usual suspects look pretty strong today as well.
Scott Dixon starts 4th today, Lee.
Thank you. It's kind of like cue the Jaws music, isn't it? Because here comes Scott Dixon. Townsend Bell is one of the rare few who actually beat Dixon in Indy Lights when you won the championship. You raced him in IndyCar. How dangerous is he at this stage of the season?
I only beat him a couple times. He won the championship that first year. But I'll tell you what, Scott Dixon knows right where he is right now, which is with a chance to win the championship. It's a smell and a taste that he's very familiar with more than any other driver. I'll bet 3 races ago he would have quietly confided in us that the championship was a long shot. He's gone on this brilliant run for 3 races. It's now in his sights, and he is dangerously fast and coming strong.
PT, there were a couple of races that Scott would like a do-over on. One was Detroit, where we saw a rare mistake. Texas, we're going to relive those with some highlights now. He could very well be leading the championship at this stage.
Absolutely, and it is a very rare instance when Scott Dixon does this. He brushed the wall and sent him straight head-on into the other wall. He doesn't make mistakes very often, but I completely agree with Townsend Bell. Here in Texas, he got into it with Colton Herder. This is the wrong time of year for Scott Dixon to get on a roll, and if he keeps this momentum going, he can easily sneak up on you and be a champion again.
And Joseph Newgarden knows that all too well, because he knows that Rossi's been on his heels for a long time, but now Dixon is getting closer and closer. At one point, Dixon was almost 100 points away from Joseph. Now he's only 62 away from the Team Penske driver, who has had 2 very different races over the last 2 events.
Here at Iowa Speedway in the Iowa 300, where Joseph Newgarden is now starting to put on a bit of a clinic. He has led 244 laps tonight in what has been a superb driving performance. He's already got 3 wins this year, and he wins here in Iowa. The championship leader extends his points advantage.
I was told that coming up. Do your thing.
Every point is so valuable. I'm sure Newgarden's thinking about the podium that would be easily in his hands had they not had that fueling issue. He would be running 2nd right now. Oh, and Newgarden and Hunter Ray get together. Oh, podium. No. Newgarden's off. That is a huge championship implication.
That's the championship leader around.
I just, forced the issue probably. Just trying to get on the podium there, and I got in the side of him, and it's my fault trying to force the issue there. It just wasn't meant to be.
Races left. Here are the championship points, and what's crucial for you to know is you get 50 points for a win, plus bonus points for pole position, which we didn't have qualifying this weekend, by the way. It was rained off yesterday. And then you get for leading laps and leading most laps. So there are 50 plus. But then keep in mind, at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca at the end of the year, double points on offer. And Joseph Newgarden, who won this championship in 2017, knows that all too well. Let's hear from the points leader with Kevin Lee.
Yeah, he's the championship leader looking for number 2, so it did tighten up a little bit, but it's actually been tighter at times throughout this season. All right, so how do you move forward after something doesn't go the way you want it to go?
Well, we're here. We already are moved forward. It was nice having a couple week break. I think we've got a great car underneath us today. The Hitachi car's been fast. Chevrolet's done a great job for us as usual. But it's going to get tough here towards the end. It's not that any race is more important than the beginning of the year. It's just you really start looking at the points a lot more aggressively now when it gets this tight in the championship. But every race is important, just like the start of the season. So we got to try and execute today and then do that for the final 3 races. So we'll see what we got. But I feel pretty confident in Team Penske.
Just the one long practice. Do you know what to expect in this race?
Yeah, I think we had the same amount of practice time we were supposed to have at the beginning of the weekend, so it's not like we got cut short. I do think we learned a lot. We'd always want more practice time, I think, in this type of situation where you're still trying to figure this track out. We didn't have the best car here last year, unfortunately, but we worked really hard on it. I think we learned some stuff throughout the race. I think we have a better car today, and hopefully it's going to be enough in the end. Is it going to be enough? I don't think we know yet, but I think we've had plenty of time to try and figure it out.
They won the last Superspeedway race at Texas. Joseph Newgarden starting on points from the pole today.
you. Joseph's words yesterday, not ours. Paul, he said when something happens like what happened at Mid-Ohio 3 weeks ago, that stays with you a long time. But right here and now, it's time to shrug that off and move on. Is that easier said than done?
It is and it isn't, because I can completely sympathize with Joseph. Look, I've made plenty of bonehead moves in my career. I'm sure Townsend has as well that you regret. But at the end of the day, if he's going to win this championship, he needs to get every safe point that he can. And sometimes, like in golf and in basketball, you got to lay it up sometimes.
Let's make one point clear, and that is while we've been talking about the chasers, Joseph Newgarden has been the championship leader after every race bar one this season. That was the Indy 500 when his teammate Simon Pagenaud won. He can handle this leading pressure, can't he?
Oh, you bet. I mean, are you kidding me? Play it safe, lay up? I don't even know who you are anymore. If I'm talking to Joseph Newgarden, I'm going to try to, when he comes up to take his place on the inside of the front row, I'm going to say, stick to what you know, kid. He's one of the toughest guys out there. He's the 2017 champion. He's leading the points for a reason. The guy is a tiger. He gets after it. Nobody's been more consistent here at Pocono. No wins yet, but 5 top 5s. He'll be strong today.
Now, for us as well as the drivers, we cannot make this return to Pocono Raceway without thinking about Robert Wickens. That horrendous crash that he suffered last year, the Justin Wilson incident of several years ago as well. This was the track repair after Robert collided with Ryan Hunter-Reay last year. But this Canadian is incredible. He is the most amazing human being you've met. Resilience, determination, recovering from that spinal cord damage. And just over a month ago, at home at Toronto, he got to drive that Arrow Electronics Acura NSX, and it brought the crowd just to a wild state. And then Robert keeps us up to date on his social media platforms. He had a little bit of period of quietness when he had to go through a couple more surgeries, but with that anti-gravity machine, as you just saw, he continues this amazing recovery. So everybody's thinking about Robert as we race here at Pocono again. What do the drivers think about coming back to the Tricky Triangle a year on?
You know, I'd be lying if I said there wasn't some, some kind of bad mojo a little bit with obviously with JW and Robbie and stuff. I feel like there's been too much stuff that's kind of happened here in a short period of time. But I think there's a lot of guys that really enjoy this place, myself included. I think this is a very different challenge than almost any other oval that we go to.
It's a very difficult racetrack to run. It's a difficult racetrack to race, and it's very fast. So that's why we get paid the big bucks. Everybody has a lot more respect for the racetrack when we come here. We race each other probably a little bit more careful, but I love it. I love the speed. I love the way the danger is, and that's why we start racing in the first place.
You can find weaknesses at almost every racetrack. I mean, these super speedways, especially, here we're doing 230, miles an hour on the straights. It's, when these cars get sideways or go backwards and they have just a little bit of lift, then you're into a situation where you're talking about a catch fence.
Ultimately, I think, I feel bad for Pocono. 2 or 3 of the incidents they've had here could have happened anywhere. It's just one of those things. It says it right on the back of the ticket that it's dangerous. But, I think for us as a driver, you look at the positives and try and make the most of it and try and go out there and try and win.
Those comments from the drivers, keep in mind today when you're enjoying the 500-mile action, they're traveling at over 215 miles per hour. What's it like going back to a track, to continue this theme? What's it like going back to a track where there's been some nasty incidents and you've seen perhaps your peers get injured?
In a very strange way, it's almost therapeutic. You think about it, but it also is something that I never like to walk away from. If I crashed my dirt bike when I was a kid, I wanted to swing the leg right back on the horse and go for it right away. And when you come here to Pocono, there's a phrase from World War II, courage is when you're scared, but you do it anyways. These guys are warriors. They're technical warriors, but they're going to take it head on, and they're going to feel a lot better at the end of the day having come and raced here.
Paul, for you?
I agree. Racing's a dangerous sport. Anything in motorsports is dangerous, and these guys know the risks, and Tony Kanaan said it best. This is why they get paid the big bucks. This is why they get paid millions of dollars to go out there and put it all on the line and get a win for their sponsors and their teams and their families and their fans. So this is going to be a great race today. It's going to be fast, 230 miles an hour, and it's going to be tricky.
Speaking of victorious, that's exactly what Alexander Rossi was here 1 year ago at Pocono Raceway. And when we come back, we get one step closer to the green flag, and we'll hear from that man there who is currently second in the championship points. Getting closer to race start. 500 miles of NTT INDYCAR Series racing here this afternoon in Pocono, Pennsylvania, where some of the biggest names in both IndyCar and NASCAR have been to victory lane. And speaking of the wins, in the current era of IndyCar racing, which is the past 6 years here at Pocono, Scott Dixon has been victorious. He was part of a 1-2-3 sweep for Chip Ganassi Racing. How about JPM? One Pablo Montoya got one of Roger Penske's 10 wins here. Incredible performance. So too Captain America, Ryan Hunter-Ray. He's seen victory lane. And what about Will Power? He went back-to-back years in 16-17 and narrowly missed out on getting a three-peat last year to the hands of this man, Alexander Rossi, who's with Dylan Welsh.
And he is the most recent winner, Lee, and rolling off from outside the front row today as we roll around turn one here at Pocono. So last time out at Mid-Ohio, gained some valuable points, a much needed shot in the arm for you in this 2017. The last 4 races, how do you keep the pressure on for this championship apart from winning?
Well, that's the majority of the job is winning races, right? But you know, we just got to keep starting out front. Obviously, this is kind of a default front row starting position, but you got to take advantage of it and execute. And this is, believe it or not, quite a big track position race. So it's going to be interesting. There's guys with different downforce levels out there. So it's 500 miles. There's going to be a lot that goes down in those 500 miles. So we just got to make sure that, you know, we play our cards right, push hard when we need to, and you know, just play the long game. So, you know, it's going to be an interesting race, and we'll know what the right decisions are at the end of it.
These next 4 races are good tracks for you guys. Obviously, you want to be leading the points, but do you feel like you're kind of in the catbird seat and as far as closing the gap even further still?
I don't know that you ever feel like you're in the catbird seat in this championship. There's so many good guys, but, you know, I think the whole Military to Motorsports team this weekend has done a good job. You know, we kind of took a deep breath after the 3 in a row we had. 2 difficult races for us in Iowa and Mid-Ohio, and we came out with a package that we're generally happy with. So it's just about maximizing that. And obviously, as much as we want to win, the goal still just needs to finish in front of Joseph, Simon, and Scott. And usually, if you're doing that, you're probably going to win the race.
Absolutely. No doubt about that. Alexander Rossi, again, rolling off from second today. Lee, it's a little windy out here, so I'm going to turn around and make sure I hold on and don't fall off this Humvee out here.
Welcome the breeze, because it's pretty humid, pretty hot here this afternoon. So how about the Championship 4? They're evenly split as far as their records here at Pocono. Dixon has won and Rossi has won. Simon Pagenaud has just one top 5, while his teammate and championship leader, Joseph Newgarden, has 5 top 5. But as far as Pagenaud is concerned, he's ready to get back to victory lane and sweep both 500-mile races, just like he did back in that magical month of May. Is it going to be Rossi? Is it going to be Pagenaud? 2 laps to go in the 103rd running of the Indianapolis 500. Simon Pagenaud takes the lead.
Clear.
Down the back stretch for the final time. Simon Pagenaud sweeps the month of May and wins his maiden Indy 500.
Guys, we just won the Indy 500. Woo! You know where Victory Circle is here. You've already been there. I told you get there twice.
So you know there's a guy happy to see a 2.5-mile oval in a 500-mile race. Simon Pagenaud, as we finish our lap around the tricky triangle. It is a little bit tricky. It's bumpy out there.
Yeah, it's bumpy. I tell you what, those videos never gets old. It never gets old to see it. Winning Indy is just phenomenal. But yeah, I mean, it's you know, it's very tricky here. It's very different than Indy. There's only 3 corners, so you know, the corners are longer, and you need a car that can finish the corner well. And in traffic, it's quite difficult to follow. But we had an awesome car yesterday. I had such a good time in practice. So we'll see what we can do today. But you'll see there's going to be a serious play of downforce here. Pit stops are going to be very important. Fuel strategy. It's going to be interesting. I'm excited about this race.
2 weekends off. You got to go back home and took some hardware with you. That was cool.
Yes. It was incredible. Like, that's my hometown, and we had about 2,000 people show up, and unveiling the trophy with my face on it was phenomenal. I mean, Bob Warner was tremendous at making it possible, and we managed to explain a little more what the biggest race in the world is over there. And I think it was a wake-up call for a lot of people about what we accomplished with Tim Penske, and also what this race is all about. You know, and that's what you got to do. You just got to go back there and in every country and explain how big this race is.
The Indy 500, the gift that keeps on giving. Simon Pagenaud looking for another 500-mile win today, Lee.
It's not even a stretch, Kev, to say that this has been the year of Simon Pagenaud's career. PT, he has been so busy. That was a great personal honor for him to go home during the break. But now he's here in his second home, the USA, and it's time to go back to work.
It absolutely is, and he has done an amazing job this year being an ambassador for the IndyCar Series, for the Indy 500, and he's really propelled himself into an international level sporting star now because of his willingness to go all over the world and promote the IndyCar Series. He says it's hurt him a little bit in preparation on the racetrack, but he showed up here and he was fast in practice, even though he had some mechanical issues to start the practice session yesterday.
Yeah, I spoke with his engineer, Ben Bretsman, before, and he said we're going to be in good shape today. Townsend, let's talk Alexander Rossi. 16 points behind, 4 races to go. He narrowly missed out last year against Scott Dixon. What's the state of play here today?
Well, I think for Alexander Rossi, you have to choose him as the favorite to win here today. He won the race in dominant fashion last year. And let's not forget, he only started racing on ovals in 2016 and won his very first Indy 500 in doing so. The trajectory of his progress and improvement on ovals has been breathtaking. If Pagenaud was in France with all the Indy 500 hoopla, Rossi was sitting in a room thinking and studying the rest of this championship. He's a killer. He's got that killer mindset. I think he'll be very strong today.
Another driver we need to talk about. He's not in the championship hunt, but he is always a talking point in the NTT INDYCAR Series. I'm sorry, all of you singles. James Hinchcliffe is officially off the market. Robin Miller joins me to talk all silly season rumors and facts next. I said as we went to the break, sorry to all you singles, Hinch is officially off the market. Look at that beautiful picture as he and Becky shared on social media. During the break, right after Mid-Ohio, they tied the knot up in Ontario. So congratulations to James and Becky, the high school sweethearts. Robin Miller joins me to talk silly season. There's no silly season, that is fact. But Hinch may factor into the silly season. We'll get to that in just a moment. There's a lot of news around at the moment. Let's kick off first with alternative power coming in 2022 in the form of hybrid engines to IndyCar. There's been a lot of reaction to this. What are your thoughts?
A lot of panic. People are like, oh no, electric engines. No, they're not electric engines. We're going to have self-starters and we're going to have a little more power. That's it. That's all that's going to happen. I think it's going to be located in the bell housing. Hell, I couldn't find it, neither could you. It'll be fine. Maybe a standing start at Long Beach. Relax.
And 900 plus horsepower, which the drivers are super excited about. Okay, perhaps the biggest news, maybe even topping that, is that for the first time since 1979, McLaren will be back full-time in IndyCar racing. There is Zach Brown, the boss of McLaren, and he is so passionate about this happening. They are joining in an amalgamation with Arrow Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports. The new collaboration will be known as Arrow McLaren SP. This is massive.
Oh, Lee, the whole thing is this. We're probably going to see Fernando Alonso again. We've got a world-class operation that's going to run a full-time team. They're going to probably expand in a year or two. Zach Brown's in this for the long haul. This isn't a 1 or 2 year deal. He's a big-time IndyCar fan. He wants to do this for full-time.
The one thing that McLaren has not made mention of is the 2 drivers that will drive that car. We are waiting on that. So with that, let's transition to silly season and rumors. Let's start with the guy we were just talking about, James Hinchcliffe. He's still got a contract with that team, hasn't he?
He does, and people say if McLaren's smart, they'll just keep Hinch because he's got oval track experience, he's got IndyCar experience, but I keep thinking Honda's going to try and save him because Honda wants him. He's got a personal service deal with Honda of Canada, and I think Honda's going to try and make a play for him, maybe put him with Graham Ray Hall in the 3rd car.
All right, let's pick some more drivers. And, you know, rookie sensation and winner, the youngest to ever win an IndyCar race, Colton Herder. Is he staying put or is he moving?
He's staying put. Everybody had him going to McLaren, and Zach Brown was this close to getting him because if Michael goes to Chevrolet, Lee, he's a Chevrolet.
Michael Andretti, that is.
If Michael Andretti goes to Chevrolet, guess what? He's going to be a Chevrolet driver, and that's going to be Zach Brown's hole card. When that happened, it all collapsed, so Zach's scrambling now to figure it out. Colton's going to be with Michael Andretti. It might be with Steinbrenner as a partner.
All right, how about the ever-likable and super talented, but not very lucky Connor Daly? Is he going to land a full-time ride?
I hope so. He's talking to Zach Brown. He's talking to Ray Hall. I still think he's talking to Andretti. I think they're not going to run 6 cars, but the most important thing is he's shown this year he should be in this series full-time.
Almost out of time. The veteran, the most popular in IndyCar, Tony Kanaan. Will TK be back for another season?
I think he will. He deserves a going-away season. I hope he gets one.
Well, he deserves one, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
He's a champion. He's an Indy 500 winner. And today he starts his 314th consecutive race, which is a stark contrast to this young man, Colton Herder, the 19-year-old sensation. We'll tell you a little bit more about him when we come back as we get closer to green.
You're watching NBCSN's coverage of IndyCar, brought to you by Honda, an official vehicle of the NTT INDYCAR Series.
There was very much an Indy 500 flavor at Mecum, Monterey this week. And our very own Townsend Bell, you were out there, mate. You got to see some of these amazing cars that were on display and, more importantly, on auction.
I love going to Monterey for Car Week, especially here at Mecum, where we had IndyCar flavor on offer up for bid. A couple of very significant Arie Luyendyk cars, including this 97 race winner that sold for $400,000. Also some terrific Ferraris. Ferris Bueller would love that this thing sold for $2.5 million. Did that epic beauty, and this was my favorite, 2014 LaFerrari, $2.55 million. I think that's a deal, Div.
It's a great deal, and there's been some big numbers for beautiful cars. And a quick reminder that Mecum Auto Auctions Monterey, it's the place to be. That continues tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on NBCSN. Now, speaking of cool cars, rookie sensation Santino Ferrucci, who lives in Woodbury, Connecticut, only a couple of hours away, arranged this special rally with some friends and owners of these cool cars, supporting a couple of charities that he's close to, and exotics of all kinds made their way over, weaved their way over from Connecticut here to Pocono, Pennsylvania, and serving a good cause, we should say. Santino, congratulations, and he's really excited. He's got about 150 friends and family here watching him at his first IndyCar race at Pocono Raceway. Now, speaking of rookies, another talented one is Colton Herder. We've been endeavoring this year to bring the drivers closer to you at home so you can get to know them inside their helmet a little better when they get to sit down with our very own Rutledge Wood. Here's Colton's turn with Rut.
Cole and I are ready to make some magic happen. I've got approximately 38.5 seconds worth of questions, which is the equivalent time per lap.
Are we racing the clock? Should I go
Sort
quick?
of, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, let's go.
Taco Tuesday or Fish Stick Friday?
Taco Tuesday.
Go-to dance move.
The disco.
Batman or Superman?
Superman.
Speeder?
Batman's not a real superhero.
I'm sorry, what?
He doesn't have a superpower. He's just rich.
But he has that basement. What about the cave?
You could have all those gadgets.
I've never thought about that.
Like Superman can fly. What can Batman do?
Okay, yeah.
Very debatable.
What's your biggest quirk? I mean, obviously, intense knowledge of superheroes.
I mean, that's probably it. I don't really have anything else interesting besides being fast in a race car, I guess. I started testing at 5. The first time I went out, instantly fell in love. I actually remember my first lap in a go-kart ever because it was so monumental. I set the track record, but I cut half the track because I went into turn 1 and then went skipping over the gravel onto the back straight and then past the timing line again. So I did like a 10-second lap at like a 50-second track. Full throttle, because why not?
Now the rookie Colton Herder.
Colton Herder, watch out for him.
Wow.
The 18-year-old American Colton Herder. Hello.
I'm a rookie. You don't have a lot of time in IndyCar if you're not performing. That's where the pressure comes from. If you're not performing, they're going to find some other young kid to replace you. Obviously, I'm going to have a crash.
Inside now. Colton Herder.
I'm going to take somebody out at some point.
No! Both! Colton Herder, Dixon in the wall.
That was very ambitious, and it just didn't pay off.
But you need to learn as soon as possible and then start performing.
This is the guy we want to watch.
If you can show 2 or 3 star performances of what could be a championship run in the future,
Colton Herder now becomes the youngest to ever win in IndyCar.
people are going to want to continue investing in you and continue growing you.
Oh man, I'm so happy right now.
That was very good. Shows you how witty and humorous the young man is. Now, here is a quick snapshot of the current Rookie of the Year point standings. Felix Rosenquist of Chip Ganassi Racing leads by some 37 points. And then Colton Herder, the one and only race winner out of that rookie crop. So, very cool. Let's keep talking about Colton Herder. Townsend, what have been your thoughts?
Well, I know he's only 3rd in rookie points right now, but Colton Herder has easily been the most exciting rookie of the crop. But he's had 5 DNFs to go with the win and the pole position. It's the DNFs that have gotten him this year. He needs a clean race today, but he's certainly been electric on track.
Paul, who's got your eye?
Well, obviously Santino Ferrucci, because if you come into the season and you only read internet forums and heard about the things about him, you would say this kid's going to crash into everybody. He's got an attitude. He doesn't belong here. But he's been absolutely fantastic with the media, fantastic with the fans, and his performance on track, he's passed more cars than anybody.
I guess that leaves it up to me to say well done Felix Rosenquist then, who almost got his first race win 3 weeks ago at Mid-Ohio and has been enjoying himself in his first of 2 guaranteed years here in the NTT INDYCAR Series. All right, we've got you up to speed. Now it's time to speed it up. When we come back, the green flag will fly.
The driver they call the Iceman is coming. Scott Dixon, the 5-time and defending INDYCAR Series champion, is making a late season charge. In 3 races over the month of July, Dixon finished first or second in each, holding up his teammate at the last race in Mid-Ohio for the win.
Championship points at stake. Final corner, Scott Dixon will win!
And while Dixon was battling for the victory, points leader Joseph Newgarden made a costly last lap mistake and lost 10 positions in a single turn.
My fault trying to force the issue there and just wasn't meant to be.
Over July, Dixon gained 32 points on Newgarden, and the championship race sees only 62 points covering the top 4 drivers. There are only 2 500-mile races on the NTT INDYCAR schedule, the Indy 500 and today's round at Pocono. And for these 4 pilots, they know 500 miles is a long distance that could bring them closer to a title or significantly slow down their championship drive. On a warm Pennsylvania summer afternoon, NBC Sports welcomes you to the NTT INDYCAR Series, racing from Pocono. Today's telecast is presented by Honda. It is race 14 of the 17-race 2019 season. And what has been a captivating year, to say the least, that brings us to this. 4 races to go and 4 famed drivers in the hunt to claim this championship. Joseph Newgarden leads Alexander Rossi by just 16 points as it's time to go trackside for the command.
Race fans, it's time for those most famous words in motorsports. Here to give the command from Rahway, New Jersey, please welcome ABC Supply Managing Partner, Donnie Portillo.
Drivers, start your engines.
Well, one of the great things about starting on points, it means all the championship contenders, all 4 right here in the front 2 rows. One of the big questions coming into this race, downforce levels. Joseph Newgarden, just a few minutes ago, the last to make the change. The full wicker, full max downforce, that's what everyone has. Over at Alexander Rossi, who dominated this race last year, second in the championship. Very confident coming into this 500-mile race, Dylan.
And Kevin Santino Ferrucci continues to adapt with ease to the challenges of being an IndyCar rookie. Surprisingly, ovals are perhaps where he's adapted best, and he's handled the tricky triangle quite well this weekend as well, posting the 3rd fastest time in practice. Perhaps his biggest challenge of the year sits in front of him today with 500 miles at Pocono, but with the ability for him to adapt quite well, don't be surprised to see Santino up front at the end of the day. Robin?
Well, it's been a horrible season for Tony Kanaan, to put it bluntly. It's so bad AJ Foyt didn't even show up here at Pocono. He didn't watch his car run last. Well, guess what? Even though TK hasn't won an IndyCar race since 2014, he had the fastest practice speed in yesterday's 2-hour practice session. Unfortunately, he has to start way in the back. And guess what? His forte, passing cars. So hope AJ's watching at home in Houston, because I think car number 14 is going to go to the front today. They got a good car. Don Halliday's kind of thrown this team back together, and they seem to be clicking for the first time all weekend. Lee Diffie
spoke to the team and to Scott Harner, who leads the team now along with Larry Foyt. He said it felt like a win just being on top of practice yesterday. So there are 22 single-seaters, but there's only 1 two-seater. And taking the special Honda two-seater ride this afternoon with the legend Mario Andretti is the famed Dr. Mike. Hey, you were once voted the sexiest man alive thanks to People magazine, Dr. Mike, but I bet you've never done anything like this.
I definitely have never done anything like this, but this is an absolutely
really amazing experience.
And you got to do it with the Mario Andretti. We'll sit back and you sit back and enjoy the ride. Hey, just take a rough guess. What do you think your heart rate is at the moment?
I'm going to guess a solid 150.
All right, well, take a breath and enjoy the ride. That's Dr. Mike. Thank you. Enjoying the ride with Mario Andretti, who's only about 25 miles away from his home in Nazareth, Pennsylvania. So we're not far away from the second and final 500-mile race in the NTT INDYCAR Series. Lee Diffie along with Townsend Bell, Paul Tracy, ready to get you going. It's time to take a closer look at the track they call the Tricky Triangle.
Well, it's good to see it from space because there's not another place on the planet like Pocono. Turn 1, modeled after Trenton International Speedway. It's a long radius, not quite 180 degrees, but about 160. Then down at turn 2, a perfect 90-degree corner with 8 degrees of banking, modeled after the greatest spectacle in racing, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That's what yielded turn 2 for the designers. And then Paul, turn 3, they looked to Milwaukee. Turns 3 and 4 at Milwaukee for the inspiration. This place really celebrates 3 great racetracks.
Absolutely, and it takes 3 different kinds of setups to get around here, varying downforce, but this long front straightaway is one of the longest there is in motorsports. Speeds of up to 230 miles an hour.
They can go 7 wide. Heck, there's enough room to put 2 more maybe. You could probably go 9 wide if you went below the apron there. That is one of the restarts that this place is famous for, and I expect it to be just as crazy. Call that blind faith or maybe ultimate trust in your competitors.
A lot of excitement about coming back to Pocono, that's for sure. Let's take a look at how they will line up with the Honda starting grid. Now, here's the thing you need to know if you weren't with us in the pre-race show. Bad weather yesterday, along with a little hiccup with the medical helicopter unable to get in here because of that bad weather. The first practice session was cancelled, qualifying was cancelled, and then we had a 2-hour practice session yesterday afternoon. That's why they are lining up in championship order.
You know, the benefit is that you've got the top 4 guys all up front going at it right at the start. Further back, good strong run from, good strong points for Rosenquist. He sits 9th, which is where he'll start today. And then 2 rookies on row 7, Paul, battling it out for top American rookie honors.
Yeah, a couple guys here in the back that wanted to qualify that were really quick. Tony Kanaan, Ed Carpenter, Santino Ferrucci, all have real racing cars, so they're going to be looking to move forward quickly.
Final couple of rows, there's row 11. Those are Carlin teammates. Connor Daly making another appearance for the Carlin team. Did a great job for them at Texas, and he'll be in the seat for the rest of the season, switching over to Andretti at Laguna Seca.
And of the 22 cars, there are 8 onboards with thanks to Gallagher. Connor Daly's going to give us this view aboard the Gallagher Chevrolet Carlin Racing. Zach Veach, who had a phenomenal run here last year, will enjoy this view with thanks to Gainbridge, part of the Andretti Autosport squad. Clydell Manufacturing brings us Santino Ferrucci's onboard in the 19 Dale Coyne racing machine. James Hinchcliffe has been in the headlines. He kind of always is, isn't he? And with thanks to Lucas Oil, takes us on board the Arrow Schmidt-Peterson Honda. Felix Rosenquist, who came oh so close to being victorious for the first time, carries the NTT Data onboard camera and that beautiful nose cam. We'd like to see a lot of that today. And then the visor cam of Graham Rahal, the Total Performance engine oils, bringing us this view. And a couple of AutoNation cars and onboard cameras. First up, it's Ryan Hunter-Ray in the number 28. He's been victorious here at Pocono Raceway. And then Alexander Rossi in championship contention. Starts on the outside. Again, that's an AutoNation onboard. It's the ABC Supply 500. Yes, 200 laps, 500 miles, and only 4 races remain in this 2019 season. And the top 4 in the championship are in the top 4 positions. To the left of your screen in the orange car, Scott Dixon with a good start. The yellow car is Simon Pagenaud, the Indy 500 champion. He's going for the inside on his teammate, and the Indy champ will take the lead into 1.
Charlie Kimball jumped onto the warm-up lane down there, and he passed about 8 cars down into the first corner, but Simon Pagenaud shows his speed right away.
But Alexander Rossi pretty well smoked on the front straightaway. Now Ryan Hunter-Ray is to the inside. Huge crash. Hunter-Ray, Sato. Oh no, and Rossi is in it.
A lot of cars.
Up in the fence is Rosenquist.
This is disastrous for Rossi in the championship. His teammate was involved like he was last year
Sato.
in turn 2. Sato's involved.
Upside
upside down. Sato's car.
On fire too.
So Ryan Hunter-Reay, for the second year, is involved in a really scary crash. Takuma Sato is upside down and that car is on fire. This is Felix Rosenqvist. His race is done.
Rosenqvist was up on top of the guardrail. All attention right now going to Sato's car. He got tangled with Hunter-Reay.
Hunter-Reay's out. He's okay. He's going to run over and see if he can help. They need to try to get Sato's car. Usually what they'll do is tilt it up on its side. It looks like the rear's propped up on Hunter-Reay's car, so there should be a pretty big space to tend to him. There's Hinchcliffe. He's getting out.
Second year in a row for James. He was also involved in that accident last year between Robert Wickens and Ryan Hunter-Reay.
Looks like Rossi's out of his car already. Huge championship implications for him.
There's Sato.
Sato's out. Great news.
With a special 10th anniversary helmet reflecting all of the teams he's driven for in IndyCar. He did not expect to scrape that helmet being upside down here at Pocono Raceway today. There's Alexander Rossi. He can't believe it.
That's the second year in a row that Hunter-Reay and Hinch, I think, was caught up in the accident last year. They're both out in a turn 2 accident, and it's really narrow down there. They rocket down the back straightaway, fan out, and the groove is so tight, everybody's trying to jockey for position, and they just got collected. Rosenqvist still sitting, and nobody's been in his car
no
yet.
safety over there, and he was up on top of the wall, grinding on top of the wall there for a little bit, so he is not really moving around, so they got to get a safety team over there ASAP.
His visor's up. He is moving in the cockpit. Here they come.
AMR safety team. Getting there as quickly as they can. They just got stretched because there were so many cars in so many different locations.
And I'm guessing that they would have had some radio communication because I think they would have hustled much quicker there had they thought that Rosenqvist was in immediate need. They went to Sato, which was the right thing to do.
He looks like he's ready to get out now. They said code 1. It looked like they raised one finger. Front of the car pretty tore up. It looks like it got up on, like I said, got up on top of the wall. We got a lot of angles to show you guys. Just guys getting real racy at the start of the event again. And
so watch Hunter-Reay in the yellow
out.
car. Hunter-Ray's going to make a move on Rossi, go to the inside. Sato goes to the outside. They're now 3 wide.
They just squeezed him.
I think
Sato just came
down
over
on Rossi.
Yeah, he just came down on top of Rossi and then swept everybody out. Oh, look at that.
Oh,
look at that,
man.
up in the fence. So very hard hit for Rosenqvist. Very, very lucky.
I'm so glad that Rosenqvist stayed out of the fence in terms of the whole car getting up there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So here we get a good head-on shot. I'm not sure what Sato thought he was clear maybe and tried to get a draft off Dixon.
Yeah, I don't know what he was doing in that situation. He just kind of turned down across those guys, and there was a car in the middle. Rossi was in the sandwich.
Well, we have an onboard
in the middle of it, so we'll get an onboard with Rossi. Look at this. Already banging wheels already, so close. But here, watch Sato, and then he just turns on him.
Oh, and Hunter-Reay was kind of tight
Rossi
down below.
No steering for Rossi now.
I think everybody was trying to go after the single car toe, the draft from Scott Dixon. You had 3 wide and 1 in front. Hunter-Reay on board.
Passing his teammate here, so he's on the inside clear of him. Then watch Sato he tries to shoot that gap, and it was not there.
Not
so
on at all.
I would say at this point, Ryan Hunter-Reay saying, I might be done with Pocono. 2 really scary crashes in 2 years.
Sato collected just about everybody, and it sends Rosenqvist up. So similar to Wickens last year. He's so lucky that that didn't get into the fence. And it ripped the front of the nose right off the car.
He's
so
lucky that the bottom side of the car impacted the wall of the fence on its side.
How about James Hinchcliffe? He was involved as well. He's the onboard.
Clear by 3.
It's on the brakes. He's doing what he has to do, but the cars just come right back to him. He was on the brakes, slowing down, downshifting, doing exactly what he needed to do, but then the cars swept back up the track.
There's Rahal on board.
Good driving
So
by
you're
Graham
clear, all clear,
Rahal.
all clear. Big right behind you, buddy. Big right behind you.
I think this is Rosenquist, isn't it?
Outside. You're clear. Oh.
Ferrucci, I already saw, got through this. More heads up, smart driving. Watch this. He gasses it up and just goes for it again. Just like he did at Indy. He just saw the gap and hit the full throttle and went right around the outside of it. So super heads up driving by Ferrucci, the rookie.
Felix Rosenquist out of the car, assessing the damage, and in a matter of races goes from almost winning to being taken out on the opening lap. But every driver, I can't, actually that's not true, I can't speak for James Hinchcliffe, I didn't see James get out and walk away, but every other driver we have. Sato, who was upside down, we saw the AMR safety team help him, we saw Ryan Hunter-Reay and Alexander Rossi talking, we saw Rosenquist get out. Did I miss something? Did you see Hinch get out?
No, but
I'm
he
sure
shut his engine off right away,
yeah.
and I'd say odds are he's going to be fine.
Guys, I don't know what it is. Whenever there's a break in the schedule or you come into the start of a season, guys just come in with amped up, wanting to do something, make something happen. And it's a 500-mile race, first lap, you know?
Yeah, but I talked about it just at the Open. It requires trust when you're flying. I mean, you're flying airplanes basically at 230 miles an hour on the ground. You have to have trust in everybody around you.
So as you can see in the top left-hand side of your screen there on the graphic, we are red. The race has been red flagged for an extended cleanup. 5 cars taken out of this 500-miler on the opening lap. We welcome you back to Pocono Raceway, to a scene that we weren't hoping to see, of course, at this very early stage of the 500-mile race. And we're going to go straight down during this stoppage to the pit lane and join Kevin Lee. Kev?
Alexander Rossi is the first out of the medical center. First of all, happy to see that you're okay. Tell us, you have seen a replay. What happened?
I've seen a replay and I saw it in person. Obviously, I didn't get a good start, so that's on me. But yeah, we were 3 wide. Ryan was on the inside, and I was in the middle. Takuma was on the outside, and I can't even begin to understand how after last year, how Takuma thinks that that's any sort of driving like that's acceptable. I mean, to turn across 2 cars at that speed in that corner in a 500-mile race is disgraceful, upsetting, and yeah, probably cost us championships. It's upsetting. This team works too hard to have something like that happen. So we got a couple days to rebound and go for race wins at this point now. That's all that matters.
Now, that wouldn't change your perspective on why the incident happened, but you did lose a few spots at the beginning. What happened? Did you bog down? Was there a gearing issue at the very start of the race?
No, not a gearing issue. Probably my fault. You know, Joseph was going slow and accelerating slow, and I just wasn't reacting well enough to it, honestly. So nothing he did wrong. He had a good start, but then yeah, I lost a couple spots, which put us in that position. But it's disappointing.
Thank you.
Well, I'll react first, and this is my thoughts and my opinion that accident after what happened last year, Sato, in my opinion, guys, needs a hard look at a suspension or something for that type of driving. I've been suspended for a race for something very minimal and had to sit out, and that I completely agree with Rossi.
Well, Rossi was pretty understated in his criticism, but direct. Let's see what Ryan Hunter-Reay had to say.
Ryan, Paul, and Townsend were looking at the crash, and they said they think Sato deserves some kind of penalty for that kind of driving. What was your view?
My view is this is ridiculous. I mean, thank God everybody's all right. You know, thought we learned our lesson here. Lap 1 of a 500-mile race. From my perspective, I had a nice clean run on Rossi. I was almost 3/4 of the way up past him, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I'm backwards, and I saw myself hit the inside wall, and then I saw myself going back into traffic. I could see the field coming as I'm backing into it, and I thought, man, this could get really bad. And then I saw Felix go up into the fence, and now we have fence repairs again. It's just, I don't know. That's so unfortunate. Beginning of a 500-mile race. Car was good yesterday, and just needed to put together 500 clean miles. And I don't know. I'll have to go back and look at the whole replay. I'm not going to comment on anything like that. I just know that it was minding my own business, and here I am talking to you outside the medical center. So first and foremost, thank God everybody's all right, and this DHL car deserves to be fighting for a win today.
Do you guys talk about this privately before the race? Hey, it's 500 miles. Let's take care of each other. Kanan said this is the one track guys actually try and pay a little more respect to each other.
Yeah, you'd think so after all the lessons we've learned here, you know. There wasn't that much talk of it this morning. But the fact is, we know how practice went yesterday. It is so important to gain positions at the start because it is a track position race. It's not like it used to be here where you have a good car, you can knife through it. You know, I came from the back 3 times one year all the way to the front. You can't do that right now. So I think a lot of guys felt the pressure to gain some spots at the beginning, and yeah, and it all hand grenaded.
Glad you're all right. We'll see you at Gateway.
Thank you.
Lee?
Yeah, words to listen to there from Ryan Hunter-Reay for sure. Minding my own business, and the next minute I find myself in the medical center. But to his point, every driver, to our knowledge at this point, is okay. We've seen them get out of their respective cars. Santino Ferrucci standing there, the 21-year-old American from Connecticut, literally just up the road. He pulled off another amazing opening lap and another amazing escape, just like he did at this year's Indianapolis 500. Take a ride and have a listen.
Stay outside if you want. Clear the outside if you want. One inside. Digging, keep digging. Clear.
It's amazing when you think about Rosenquist, who backed out, kind of kept his eyes up, tried to avoid everything. He ends up in the fence. Ferrucci saw a gap, dropped the hammer just like Indy, and he comes out smelling like a rose. Smart decision from the rookie, Robin.
All right, James Hinchcliffe, we just said we got to quit meeting like this. Glad you're all right. What did you see, and how did it unfold?
I mean, it unfolded in front of us. We got a pretty good start with the number 5 aero car. You know, we were heading into turn 2, kind of 3 wide. I knew that wasn't a good idea, so I backed out, and I thought that was actually going to save us because it happened in front of me. I couldn't see exactly what started it, but then the wreck sort of moved down to the inside. I got slowed up actually pretty good, but it slid out to where I was. There was nowhere I could go, and it sucks. I mean, you know, not too hard to hit, so glad everybody's okay. But 500-mile race, man. I mean, I don't know how many times we have to do this before people figure out that, you know, you can attack all you want. It doesn't give you a chance to win if you're in the fence.
I asked Ryan, is something you guys talk about internally before the race?
I mean, let's call a spade a spade. After last year, I don't think anybody had to say anything. Yeah. You know, it's just crazy, man. Like, it's such a waste of time and money and energy for everybody to come out here, do a 500-mile race, and, you know, half the top 10 end up in the fence in turn 2. But it is what it is. We'll move on to the next one. We got Gateway next week, so not a lot of time to dwell on it, luckily, and move on to the next one.
Glad you're okay, Hinch. Thanks. Dylan?
And we've got Santino Ferrucci. Well, actually, we'll keep it down here. We got Santino here, so we'll talk to him. So we just saw your view of that and going through that. Take us through that. Take us inside your helmet and what went into the decision to keep the car at the top of the racetrack.
Yeah, you know, I was up there in practice yesterday, and I felt pretty comfortable. Car had some reasonable grip, a little bit understeer, which is okay. You don't want to go up on the high side and catch oversteer because that's the end. And you know, I hung it up there. I was able to get around Spencer, and I was drag racing Seb, and I was going to tuck in behind him, and then he went low, and I had a gap up high between him and Felix, and you know, I was just kind of backing out of it to have a relax through turn 2, and then the second you start to see smoke, you kind of try to go where there isn't, and I actually got back in the gas, because the problem with that is you approach in a corner, and eventually everyone's going to come up, and you're right in line of sight. So you know, I got back in it, and just happened to be one of the lucky cars to make it round and, you know, not have to do any crazy maneuvering. So pretty fortunate, you know. Also, it's weird, you know, we're lap 1 of a 200-lap race. I mean, there's so much racing to go, and the fact that you have an incident like that is kind of just, I don't know, I don't quite get it.
Well, and we were just talking, track position is so valued at this racetrack, and you almost have to be aggressive, but there's a fine line, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, you got to take care of each other. This track's super dangerous, and you're going speeds above 220, 230, especially on the start when we're all packed up like this. You know, it's up to us to take care of each other and one another and make sure we all come home at the end of the day. And you know, have something like that happen, you know, just kind of heartbreaking, you know. And plus, you take a lot of cars out of contention for the race, you know, a lot of championship runners, which happens to be good for me, fighting for Rookie of the Year. But you know, at the same time, you know, I want a fun race. So, you know, we'll see what we can do and see if we can hold on to that top 5 spot that we're now sitting in for the rest of the race.
Yep, Santino, one of the lucky ones. He'll be able to climb back aboard his Dale Coyne Racing car here once we go back racing. Lee.
Good to hear from Santino Ferrucci, and sometimes the hitting the gas pedal saves you more than hitting the brake pedal, that's for sure. We have had word from race control during Dylan's interview there with Santino Ferrucci that the fence has been assessed, and there is an air of optimism that we will be able to go back racing relatively quickly. So while that repair continues, we're going to take you on board James Hinchcliffe's Arrow Schmidt Peterson Honda and show you something. Take a look at this.
That's the deflector on top of the tub, which is the new component that was added for safety to specifically deflect anything from hitting the driver's head.
Which I think something did just go off there. That advanced frontal protection device. Let's have another look at it.
So you see the tire zinging up there.
Right there. Roll it forward. Just that.
Yeah, a little piece of carbon just bounced right off that deflector. You can see it. You can see that big piece of carbon right there bouncing right off of that. And that, without that deflector, that would have hit James right on the forehead. And that happened to him at the Grand Prix of Indy. He had a similar thing, a winglet hit him. So that did its job perfectly.
And remember that in next year's NTT IndyCar season, all cars will be racing with the aero screen from Red Bull Advanced Technologies, and Scott Dixon may even start testing that next month. So, one Arrow Schmidt Peterson Honda out, another one still in. That is Marcus Ericsson, James Hinchcliffe's Swedish rookie teammate. Marcus is still in this event. 5 cars out, 17 left, and still an abundance of laps left to run after a highly controversial but fortunate opening lap. There is that advanced frontal protection device, which will also morph into the aero screen next year. Wow, what a start. Did we expect this? No way. NTT INDYCAR Series racing from Pocono. And the red flag period continues. If you're just joining us, there was a really scary 5-car pileup on the opening lap that involved the leader in the Rookie of the Year standings, the driver of that NTT Data Honda, Felix Rosenqvist. And if you haven't seen it yet, watch mid-pack. The first yellow car, Ryan Hunter-Ray, and on the far side, Takuma Sato goes around Alexander Rossi and turns down very, very prematurely into the front of Rossi, which is the catalyst for scary things to come.
Really kind of bizarre from Sato, because he was only a quarter of the way up on Rossi when he started to make that move. Just sort of, I think, kind of unaware of just the proximity and the spatial awareness around him, and it led to this massive accident. Rosenqvist climbing the fence, and this red flag, Robin.
Dr. Jeffrey Billows, IndyCar Medical Director, what can you tell us about Felix Rosenqvist's condition and what's going to happen to him right now?
Okay, I can tell you, we had a crash early in the race. 5 drivers were involved. 4 were treated and released. Felix, we're just sending down to the trauma center for a little bit further evaluation. He's got non-life-threatening injuries. I think he'll be fine. He walked to the ambulance on his own.
Complaining head, back, neck?
I can just say he's got non-life-threatening injuries.
All right, thank you for time. Lee.
Robin, thanks for that, and thank you for the update. So all other drivers are okay. We've heard from the majority of them, yet to hear from Takuma Sato. This is the onboard from Felix's car, and it won't last much longer, because as it goes nose first up into the fence, there's Sato's car coming over, which collects him, tips it up sideways, nose goes up into the fence, and that's where the onboard camera ends coverage. But again, just reiterating the fact of how fortunate all of them are, but especially Felix Rosenqvist. And that the base of the car just hung down and didn't climb, which is the real key thing.
Yeah, he definitely got very, very lucky that it didn't climb up the wall further. But we got word that Rossi, they're going to try to fix his car. They're going to work on this car. We have some radio, so these guys are working down here. You can't work on the car during a red, but they're willing to take the penalty.
So Rob, under red flag rules, we're not allowed to work on the car. Jeremy's talked about working on the car in the past, and there's penalties. He's not sure what the penalty is anymore, but is it worth working on the car, taking the penalty?
Yeah, Brian, what I said is just make a start getting it fixed. We'll take the penalty. The penalty's a lap penalty. It's more important to see if we can be able to get it fixed or not.
Well, look, this is exactly what Graham Rahal did last year when he was involved in coming to the green flag crash with Spencer Pickett. He worked on the car during the red and took a 2-lap penalty, came back out, and with 17 cars running and 500 miles to run, Rossi still needs to make up points in this championship, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
With Rob Edwards on the stand, you can get clever on strategies, see if you can get a wave around, get yourself back on the lead lap, and all of a sudden be right back in contention. But there is, to be fair, a ton of work to do on this number 27 car to get it speedway ready.
Well, there's 6 or 7 cars involved in this accident that are potentially out, 5 cars that are out, so you need to at least get more points than them. And, you know, who knows? It could be more accidents. There could be guys have problems, mechanical problems, and every little point is going to count at the end of the season.
All right, let's hear from the man in the middle, Takuma Sato.
So we're also trying to show Takuma a replay. Unfortunately, we don't have our normal monitors back here by the medical center, so we're going old school and pulling it up on a cell phone to let Taku see it just a little bit. But first, initial reaction, what did you think? What did you feel real time?
Well, before getting that, obviously, first of all, there's the worry about Felix. Hopefully he's okay, and mostly having nobody hurting in big time, that was a big thing. And before getting that, if I involving in the championship, I feel sorry for all the guys. And but Ryan and I was obviously racing exit turn 1, and it looks like Alexander had a slow start. We both gone right and left, and I thought it was all clear. And all the seams also putting the car really easy to get the lane change, and everybody get closed, and unfortunately it looks like we made a contact for that.
There have been some accusations pointed frankly squarely at you for this early in the race being over aggressive. How do you react to that?
Well, I'm not really over aggressively overtaking or anything. The need to say really, if anything, sit down and watching the replay. I'm obviously do that, and waiting for the IndyCar call for that.
Okay, thank you, Takuma Sato. Dylan?
And we've got Rob Edwards, Kevin, who of course calls the strategy for Alexander Rossi. So we've seen the video, the crew going to work on repairing the car. What's the prognosis initially here of what all needs to be changed to get it back on the racetrack?
There's a fair bit of work to be done. Got to change gearbox and right side suspension. But we can throw a bunch of people at it and see what we can do. We obviously can get penalised for working under the red flag, but I prefer to take that penalty and see what's involved and try and get on top of it as quickly as we can. You know, it's unfortunate, so it's about minimising the damage now going forward.
The start, it looked like he dropped back. Was there any concern of any issue of any kind initially there that caused him to drop back?
No, we didn't make the best start we've ever made for sure, and fell back a couple of spots, but I think we were fine until you know, someone made something pretty silly happen going down into turn 2 there.
All right, that's a busy guy, Rob Edwards. He's going to continue to oversee the repair work to get Alexander Rossi's car back on the racetrack.
So here again, with Takuma Sato's words now in our minds.
Well, the comment from Sato to me said it all. I thought I was clear, and unfortunately he was nowhere close to being clear of Ryan Hunter-Reay. And when he cut across the bow, I mean, he was barely a quarter of the way up there, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think he knows that, you know, you look at it here on this onboard, Hunter-Reay would never even seen Sato coming across until he was hit.
So listen, we just heard there the onboard from Ryan Hunter-Reay's car, his spotter clearly communicating with him. Was the Team RLL spotter, you know, obviously this is a little bit of speculation, but wouldn't Sato's spotter say clear now, or it's on him?
There has been some discussion about the spotters that they've added down in turn 2 into this new area after the accident with Wickens last year. IndyCar's mandated, you see this trailer here, that IndyCar's mandated a second set of spotters down here. A lot of drivers thought it really didn't help because the spotters are at ground level, looking back up the back straightaway and tough to differentiate. My point is that Sato, like any racing driver, should have the innate awareness to know as he's passing a car what the timing and flow is when you're clear, and if you're at all uncertain, check your mirror, you know, and see if you're clear. And it just was not even close to being the right time to fade back over on Rossi and try to finish the position and have the line go in. And I will say clearly he feels some responsibility here. Absolutely feels sorry for what happened to everyone. But there's a lot of frustration up and down pit lane right now, and deservedly so.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot of balls in motion here with cars moving, jockeying around, but I mean, it's pretty clear that we know that he wasn't clear. Now it's really on IndyCar where they go forward and drawing a line on how hard of a penalty this is when you cause this type of an accident.
Race control has informed the teams that they may start to warm their engines up from 3:30, which is just over 10 minutes away here local time on the East Coast, 3:30 Eastern. And another review and replay of this wild first lap crash. Some promising signs starting to appear here at Pocono Raceway, with various crew members putting their pit lane helmets back on. Haven't seen drivers heading to cars yet, but the fence fix has happened pretty efficiently, quite swiftly. And the track will get a further inspection before race control, and race director Kyle Novak has given the all clear for the sign to fire engines. This is a new back end going on Alexander Rossi's number 27, Military to Motorsports Honda, to get the championship contender. There he is, back in the race. Look at Ryan Hunter-Reay, second year in a row, same corner, scary moment. Fortunately this year, there are no serious injuries. Just to report that Dr. Jeffrey Billows, IndyCar's chief medical officer, gave us a report earlier on Felix Rosenqvist that he will go for further examination, but he did walk away from his own car. He did walk to the ambulance with the AMR safety team, so non-life-threatening injuries to Felix Rosenqvist, and he's just going to a local hospital for further examination.
And there you see it. Please drive safely, and we'll hope for that for the next 197 laps when we get going here.
There's a guy who knows what it's like to win the biggest 500-mile race in the world, the Indianapolis 500. Will Power still looking for his first victory this year. Been a source of frustration. Should have had one, and maybe it might come today. They don't come much more experienced than the 5-time champion Scott Dixon. What are his thoughts on this?
Well, we'll ask him, Lee, and he had a great view of that momentarily there out of his back mirror as he narrowly escaped being involved in that. So what are your thoughts just on, I know you said you haven't seen the replay quite yet, but just this kind of racing early on, what are your thoughts?
You know, it's tough. I think at the end of the day, when it's a 500-mile race, I don't think you're really going to win it, you know, on the first lap. But, you know, you can't just say that was the issue either. You know, I think it sounded like, you know, Sato had a pretty good run. I haven't seen the replay of how they connected. I did see it in the mirror, though, because I was, you know, trying to clear Rossi, and then once I did, you know, I could see the car just, you know, turn quickly, you know, in my left mirror. So unfortunate for everybody involved. The good thing is it sounds like everybody's okay. I was a little worried there for Felix because he was kind of left there by himself a fair way down the track and didn't look like he was moving too much, but honestly it sounds like he's going to be okay. I think he's going for further checkups. I'm still going to chip who saw him. So that's the main thing. As long as everybody's okay, you know, we can rock on and continue on. But I feel bad for Pocono. You know, honestly, these things can happen a lot of the tracks that we go to. This place has just had a rough run, you know, with some of the incidents that we've had and weather as well. But it's a tough track. It's one that rewards you well when you get it right, and just feel bad for everybody that works it.
Thanks, Scott. Kevin?
Rahal was right behind the fray, sitting 6th during the red flag, so I suspect you had a pretty good view of this. What did you see?
Well, I mean, just, you know, as Hinch and Marcus and Spig and I were just talking about, I mean, you know, the disappointing thing is just, you know, you got 499 miles to go, and, you know, you got to be patient. We know the risks at this track, too, so, you know, when you see that and you watch it all, it's pretty tough, but yeah, I mean, it just looked like Taku went 3 wide there, and then we were entering 2 or close to, so it looked like he was kind of giving them the old sign like, hey, I'm coming, but there was no space to do that, and it all went bad. But, you know, we're fortunate, I think, in the Total car that we snuck through there on the high side. Didn't get run over from behind, which was a concern. I knew when I saw all the smoke happening and you jam on the brakes, you know, your second thought is waiting for something to get you from the back. But, you know, we're all right. We're going to just try to go racing from here. We're going to be, what, 6th, I think, and, you know, hopefully have a good, safe day. I don't know what else to say. I mean, the Total car through the one corner felt on rails, so we'll see.
You've got spotters to help you.
Yeah.
Yet you're still driving the race car. How do you balance that with the information as you process it?
Well, you know, as a driver, it's a risk-reward thing, but you know how far can I push this versus how, you know, how dangerous it is. And, you know, to me, you know, the issue is that often guys don't really think about how far can I push this. They just do it, and then it's game over. But, you know, at 228 miles an hour or 226 miles an hour, like you enter turn 2 here, you're boogieing, and so there is no should I do this or not. It's a no. You know, you need to just follow in your lane, and then on top of that, you know, like I said, you just you got to play it through. You got a long race, 500-mile race. You got a long time to see this thing to the finish, so you know you always have to keep that in mind. But I see drivers walking to cars, so I don't know what that means, but I should probably go.
That was my message. Go get back to work. Stay safe. They are calling drivers back to their cars right now.
Good sign. And good to hear the insight there from Graham Rahal. There is championship leader Joseph Newgarden. He was clear of all that trouble. The man chasing him and the closest to him in points, Alexander Rossi, started the race 16 points behind. It's going to be a very different story as he confers with Andretti Autosports COO and his individual strategist and man on the radio, Rob Edwards. Now, when you make unapproved repairs to a car under a red flag, rules of IndyCar are is that it is a minimum 2-lap penalty. So bank on at least 2 laps down, and Alexander didn't even finish the first lap. But it's all about points gathering and a long day ahead. He wants to keep himself in this championship hunt. Drivers have been called to their cars. We're going to go back racing here in Pocono shortly. 197 laps are to be run with this NTT INDYCAR Racing from Pocono here on NBC Sports, brought to you by Honda. And drivers are climbing in their cars. Hey, you know what? At the top of the show, we mentioned that Indy 500 winner Simon Pagenaud, he's been back to his native France and celebrated as winning the biggest race of his life. We said it was time for him to come back to his second home and time to come back to work. Well, PT, he showed he was ready to come back to work big style. His start was phenomenal.
Yeah, he definitely got a good jump, nice draft down the front straightaway, timed it perfectly out and down the inside, and he is straight to the lead and in the catbird seat right now when we get to go to this restart.
And of the Penske drivers, Pagenaud's the one that has the lowest average finish here at Pocono, but he didn't act like it on the start there. Perfectly timed throttle drop. He matched Newgarden's throttle application and then had the position. And when you're in that bright yellow car, you want to take advantage of it, fill in everybody's mirrors with trouble.
All clear, all clear.
Now this is Charlie Kimball in the black and green Traceba car. Second, right at the back on the right-hand side there. Check this out. See ya.
Marco made a jump there and advanced and had to get on the brakes and back off, and that kind of stacked everybody up. But Charlie made a nice move. He hasn't been in the car in a long time, and he's ready to rock and roll.
He went from the last row to 15th. Nice work. And Connor Daly, his teammate on the high side there in the blue car.
Huge momentum for Connor Daly coming off turn 1. Had that accident not occurred on the opening lap, Daly might have picked up several more positions just getting out of turn 2 as you see Pagenaud getting ready.
This is Connor Daly's start. Have a listen.
Ready.
Aboard the Gallagher Chevrolet.
Ready, rolling, rolling, rolling. Green, green, green.
You see Marco going backwards there. He had to jump on the brakes to avoid a penalty, but watch this move on the outside and listen to the throttle.
Right here, everything opens up a little bit for Daly.
Left side, clear on the bottom. Right. Still there. Still there. Stay low, Chico, stay low, stay low. Nice job, nice job.
Good heads-up driving by Connor Daly there. On the brakes, watched where everything went, got to the bottom, listened to his spotter, and everything played out, made up a lot of positions.
By the way, if some of you at home have really, really good hearing on some of those replays we were showing you, it kind of sounded like Alexander Rossi's car wasn't running at full song. We have since, during the breaks, we've been speaking with our audio director, Mike Pope, and Mike was saying he thinks that there was something amiss with the audio from Rossi's car. It wasn't that Rossi's car was running poorly.
And I think, you know, Rossi, such an expert on starts and restarts, he was the first guy to raise his hand and say, no, that was on me. I was just a little late. I got jumped a little bit on the start.
Underwing starting to go back up. These guys are, I think they might be getting pretty close here.
So let's revisit the rule here, Lee. The red flag repair rule. Unapproved work performed will result in a minimum 2-lap penalty, which will be enforced in a manner determined by IndyCar, which wonder what that means, if that's going to be a drive-through or a stop and hold. It looks like they leave things a little open to interpretation. Nonetheless, the team working feverishly to get a new under tray on there.
Tell you what, he's not out of it. If they get this thing going here before we get back to green, running out of time quickly. But look, Tony Kanaan a couple years ago was 2-3 laps down at Texas and finished on the podium with waiver rounds and yellows. So if, you know, it's a 500-mile race, you get a couple more yellows and he gets back to the lead lap. He's still in this thing.
Well, if they can get the car out there, but right now it looks like we're getting close to starting engine, so that would put Rossi even deeper in the hole.
You know, it always amazes me, whether we are here on the job working or sitting at home as a viewer, you know, as a fan of motorsport, whether it be in motorcycle racing, whether it be in IndyCar, Formula One, NASCAR, endurance sports car racing, supercars, you name it. When you see these guys and girls, the mechanics, the engineers, the crew, put under the highest level of duress and pressure and say, do your job, but do it as fast as you can and as best as you can. This is awesome performance, where they have to be millimeter perfect, and they're dealing with hot components, they're dealing with new components, they're dealing with debris, they've had to clean the car, they've had to make sure everything is perfect, because they're going to send Alexander Rossi back out on the track at 230 miles an hour. They can't afford to be, you know, one bolt incorrect.
Yeah, one component loose in the suspension or underwing or any of the components on this car can cause disaster. But the next step after they get this car on the ground, Townsend, you know as well as I do, is it's going to have to go on the setup pad, get everything lined up, squared up, towed, cambered, everything set up properly for him to even be competitive.
That's going to take additional time, as you see Rob Edwards over there on the left looking on his cell phone, probably texting with somebody on the team, maybe even Michael Andretti, trying to figure out what they want to do here, how they're going to make the most of the opportunity if they can get back out on the track and salvage any points. Important to note that if the race were to end right now, Rossi would sit third in the championship, with Pagano moving up to second, just 34 points out. But on this restart, engines are fired now. You have 3 Penske's in front of Scott Dixon, and they'll be working hard, I'm sure, to try to figure out how to keep Dixon behind Newgarden.
Whoa, just got a note from race control. Both James Hinchcliffe and Alexander Rossi have been handed 10 lap penalties for unapproved work under red.
Wow.
10. So we did highlight the graphic before, saying a minimum of 2. but then it's down to the discretion of race control. So it's a 10-lap penalty.
And looks like Rossi's just
look
getting
at
the news.
Rossi's face. He's like, what?
How does that work out? I get taken out, my car's wadded up, now they're working on it, now you're going to penalize me.
A little bit unfair, really,
well,
when you think about it.
But I think the rule's a rule in terms of getting that enforced. But, uh-oh, this is not good. Tony Kanaan stalled on pit lane, getting refired. If they should be able to get him going, I think he'll be able to resume his position on the pace lap or the yellow lap.
Going to go back to green here in a couple laps. And the driver lineup, as we said, Pagenaud, Newgarden, Power, Dixon, and Ferrucci, all the way from the back to the front.
And I'm getting a little anxious already for this restart.
By the way, speaking of Santino Ferrucci, we heap praise on him for what he did, not only here today, but the Indianapolis 500. You may remember that his biggest fan coming away from the Indy 500 was none other than Dale Earnhardt Jr. Jr., we want to say on behalf of everybody here, your NBC Sports family and everybody here at Pocono, we're thinking of you and Amy and Isla and your two pilots. Just that incredibly miraculous escape from the plane crash the other day. We are all so grateful and thankful that you guys are okay. And hopefully you're home, you're in the pool, you're relaxing, feet up, and taking it easy, because that was pretty scary. And your millions of fans around the world are just as relieved as we are.
Absolutely. My heart sank when I saw those photos, but so pleased that everybody made it out of there. Dale, look forward to seeing you back at an IndyCar race as soon as possible.
To Kevin Lee. Kev?
Hey guys, one of the front runners has trouble. Must have picked up debris. I'm hearing air pressure problem for Will Power running third there, set up with fresh Firestones, and he's going to be pitting here coming up just a moment.
Well, better to get it now than on the restart and have to do this under green.
Oh boy.
Be careful there. Don't get an extra penalty by speeding in the pit lane. He's trying to hustle here a little bit. They're coming to green next time. He'll be able to catch back up to the tail end of the field. We got a long way to go, so this is not a big penalty.
What easy this time.
There's the captain on the right of your screen, Roger Penske, who flew in after the Cup race at Bristol last night. And Will is away. Not sure if we're going green next time by, but of course the laps are counting down, as you can see on the graphic on the top of your screen there. So Power back out into the mix.
Just wanted to recognize somebody else that might be watching after a big crash. That's Scott Speed.
Yes.
Another friend of NBC's and certainly a friend of mine. And he had a practice crash in rallycross race out in Salt Lake. Fractured vertebrae. I know he's sitting and resting and recovering along with his wife. And Scott, we wish you a very quick recovery as well.
Just got the word that there'll be at least 2 more laps under caution, so we'll take advantage of squeezing in a break so we can show you more green flag lap racing here at Pocono. Stick around. You're watching NBCSN's coverage of IndyCar, brought to you by Honda, an official vehicle of the NTT INDYCAR Series. And by Total Performance Engine Oils. Keep your engine younger for longer. Proud sponsor of Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing. Coming to green. That sounds good, doesn't it? After a 45-minute red flag period here at Pocono Raceway. Welcome back, folks. Lee Diffie, Townsend Bell, Paul Tracy, Robin Miller, Kevin Lee, Dylan Welsh with the action for you today. And this is the run home. 4 races remaining, 3 after today to finish off this championship. But first of all, let's finish this 500 miles. No, not yet. Restart waved off.
I'm wondering if they felt Pagenaud went too early on the restart. That's confirmed from race control. Pagenaud jumping the restart. Let's watch here. They said that the restart zone was when you hit the NTT IndyCar banner. And yeah, Pagenaud was well before that. So generally they'll give him another chance here. And if he jumps it again, they might send him to the back.
Wasn't super early, but we'll give it another go here. You would think they'd want to get these guys spread out a little bit, go a little bit earlier and spread everybody out, but we'll see this time around. Make him wait. The longer you wait, the more of a draft there is, the more crowded everybody gets.
We'll see if Newgarden can repay the favor on Pagenaud from the start.
And that start and restart zone was actually moved further back around turn 3 by some 150 feet, making it earlier, making sure the cars come to green more at full speed.
Yeah, it looks like the rolling speed this time is a little quicker, Townsend, than last time. It looked slow last time.
Yep. Outside wall from the drivers' meeting. There's an NTT INDYCAR logo.
Two Penske teammates at the front. Simon Pagenaud and championship leader Joseph Newgarden. They just so happen to be the top two in the championship. Look at Scott Dixon in third. The orange and blue car right around the outside of Joseph Newgarden. Now it's a drag down the front straight here at Pocono.
Perfect jump from Dixon as he's side by side with Newgarden. Now he's clear. Dixon slots in behind Pagenaud. Further back, they start to fan out as Ferrucci is dealing with Graham Rahal, who gets around to the outside.
Graham Rahal sweeps around the outside. Ferrucci files in. Bourdais right on his teammate's gearbox.
Look at Colton Herder, this white car here, tucking in behind the gold and black Arrow Honda of Marcus Ericsson. Herder got a nice restart.
Sigh of relief as they get through turn 2 on the restart, but Will Power is challenging in the silver car to the outside of Tony Kanaan, and Charlie Kimball goes to the inside. Kanaan loses 2 spots in one corner, and now Marco Andretti coming up on Tony Kanaan. So Kanaan really, that's very uncharacteristic for Kanaan to get shuffled back on a restart. He's normally going forward in a bold way.
Marco Andretti was up on the high side in that NASCAR tire activator that they laid down to improve the grip. That looks like it's going to be a factor today, that they'll be able to use 2 grooves.
Simon Pagenaud, Scott Dixon, Joseph Newgarden, Graham Rahal, Santino Ferrucci, and Sebastian Bourdais, the top 6.
Scott Dixon sitting on the back of Pagenaud. Do the Chevys make the mileage that the Honda, when you're sitting out front like at Indianapolis, Townsend, you're going to burn fuel. So will that be a factor today? Does Pagenaud want to sit out there in the front? He certainly did at Indy, and he came in many laps before everybody else. Will he do that again today?
That's a great point, Paul, because Pagenaud refused to do anything but lead there at Indy when his team was begging him to think about fuel mileage.
Yeah.
Kyle Moyer was on the radio. They were lucky with a yellow. So I would expect much of the same, because at Pocono it feels great to be out front in clean air. The car handles so much better.
There was just 1 2-hour practice yesterday, and Kevin, as you well know, Simon Pagenaud sat out the first 30-35 minutes of it with a clutch problem.
They had electrical issues, but the time lost didn't seem to impact them. They still had an hour, 20 minutes, and he said after that only practice, the car was fantastic. It came alive. He comes into this race as the most recent 500-mile race winner with a lot of confidence. And the debate, as we talked about leading into this race, for many drivers was level of downforce. Some were really thinking about going a little lighter, including his 2 Team Penske teammates, but Simon told me, no, I was always very convinced that we needed to go as high a downforce as possible, especially to get through turn number 2. That was the biggest concern that I had. So I want max downforce, even if it does cost me a little bit of drag and fuel mileage.
They are pulling a gap to Joseph Newgarden. Newgarden made a downforce change last second on the grid. He decided to go with more downforce, and he's not been able to right now hang on to that draft. So he needs to pull himself back up a little bit to improve that fuel mileage.
Speaking with his engineer, Simon Pagenaud's engineer, that is Ben Bretzman, a little earlier today, he said, we feel good, kind of Indy good. So if that's not an omen, and the start that Pagenaud made, the restart he made, we'll see. Long way to go, 188 laps left to run. Now Dixon seems to be edging even a little closer, within half a second of the race leader now.
Yeah, Dixon looks good, but he knows how to play the fuel game like no other, Townsend. He will just sit here on Pagenaud and see what the mileage is.
And when you say fuel, it opens up options. running in the draft like this. You can stop in a normal window and then not need as long to fuel because you haven't used as much, or you can stretch your run longer than the other guys and maybe even get lucky with a yellow and not lose the track position under green. As we see the Land Rover track facts here, that fuel window opens up around lap 30 to 33.
Ferrucci got a nice run off turn 3, pulling up just slightly on the back of Graham Rahal there. Not close enough to pop out, but
now, since having to come in and pit for that tyre pressure problem, Will Power's been able to claw his way back some 5 positions, back up to 12. Biggest movers in the pack, though, Santino Ferrucci and Marcus Ericsson, a couple of rookies who have made up 8 positions. So too is Zach Veach and Charlie Kimball, by the way. But let's talk about the car in second and on the move, Scott Dixon.
And he started fourthly and again up to that second spot already. And just to Kevin's point just a little bit earlier about the conversations these teams have had about what downforce settings or downforce packages to use, for Scott Dixon, they wanted to go with the high downforce package as well, just to help keep their cars sucked up in traffic. They felt like they were pretty solid in traffic yesterday in practice, but wanted to make sure that that carried over to the race today, so they opted for the high downforce package, and so far it's kept him in tow with Pagano, the race leader.
It's about a 1-second gap from Dixon back to Joseph Newgarden. That's been fairly stable, and Graham Rahal, who kind of had a frustrating practice yesterday, car in much better shape today and feeling good. Of course, his teammate Takuma Sato involved in that 5-car accident on the opening lap of this race. Sato, Alexander Rossi, Ryan Hunter-Ray, James Hinchcliffe and Felix Rosenquist, who has been taken to a nearby hospital just for further evaluation. But from Dr. Jeffrey Billows, Chief Medical Officer for INDYCAR, Chip Ganassi Racing itself, it's just precautionary. Felix was able to climb from the car himself, walk to the ambulance, and they're just crossing T's and dotting I's, so to speak, to make sure Felix is spot on.
See how much Ferrucci has to lift here. Listen here in turn 3. He's in turbulent air. Good size lift, Paul, plus a downshift. So racing a lot like last year in terms of everybody sort of holding station right now. And as that happens, it puts more and more pressure on the teams and drivers for green flag stops.
Pagano's backed it down a little bit. He was running laps at 2:11 in the first couple laps, now down at 2:08. So he might be now just leaned down, saving a little bit of fuel, trying to get better mileage, and that has now backed everybody up.
Firestone telemetry there gave us the numbers on Santino Ferrucci, who runs a strong 5th, but nobody stronger at the moment than the Frenchman, Simon Pagano, the reigning Indy 500 champion. Thursday, September 5th, the 100th season of the NFL kicks off on NBC with the league's most storied rivalry. Packers, Bears, then the defending Super Bowl champion Patriots host the Pittsburgh Steelers on the premiere of Sunday Night Football, only on NBC. Townsend, how are your 49ers looking?
Well, Jimmy Garoppolo's coming back from the knee injury. The recovery's been flawless, supposedly, so it's a fun time of year. Gotta love football, especially Sunday nights on NBC. I've got 2 boys that play the game, one Friday night, high school, Saturday night club team, so good time of year. But right now, these guys are battling it out for the lead here. Paul, who's your football team?
Well,
is it CFL or NFL?
Toronto Argonauts are my team. CFL, but I'm going to go for the Cardinals. They're the hometown guys for me in Phoenix. They had a rough year last year, but hopefully with some good picks this year in the draft, they'll improve this year. I'll tell you what, these guys are pulling away big time now from Newgarden. Newgarden now 2.4 back. And he's just not been able to hang on to these two at the front. And the pace really isn't all that quick. They're running 209s, 210s.
And Scott Dixon talked about how these long Pocono straightaways give you so much time, too much time to think about things because you're on the straight longer here than anywhere else. And I'll bet Dixon's looking in his mirrors hoping that Graham Rahal and Ferrucci and Bourdais start to chew into Newgarden's gap, because right now Dixon's 57 points out of the championship lead on Newgarden. So he needs help from his friends to put some heat on Newgarden to give him more of a championship gain.
Racing lap 25, so within the next 10, you will see the first round of pit stops. Kev?
Yeah, we saw the graphic. About 33 laps is a normal fuel save, but those that are good at it, I'm hearing it could still go 36 or 37. For Simon Pagenaud, and keep in mind, we had yellow flag laps. He's still going to probably come in around 37. The leader burns more fuel. Also, keep an eye on different strategies. One thing a few drivers told me is because they know it's a little bit difficult to pass, we're going to try the undercut, meaning we're going to come in before we're out of fuel and try to jump some people that way. You're taking a risk that a caution will come out, but you might see some start to come in as soon as about lap 32 here in the next little bit.
What a period of time this has been for Scott Dixon. Second, first. That's what his last 3 races read. And then here at a track where he's been victorious as well and part of a 1-2-3 sweep some 6 years ago for Chip Ganassi Racing. Himself, Charlie Kimball, and good mate Dario Franchitti. That was a first for Chip to have that 1-2-3 sweep. So very happy memories here at Pocono for Scott Dixon. And if a win, certainly another podium, but if a win occurs today, look out in this championship with just 3 to go. Going back, Newgarden. And then behind him, Graham Rahal, Santino Ferrucci. Spencer Pickett is having a good run behind Bourdais. And then we pick up another 2 rookies in Marcus Ericsson and Colton Herder.
Ericsson has done a great job so far this year on the ovals. He's really been impressive. Good running, solid performances. Really done a better job on the ovals so far than he's done on the road and street courses with all the Formula One experience he's had, Townsend. It's just, that's what's been super impressive to me, because you either pick this up or you don't for a long time.
Yeah, and he's settled in as a great teammate in James Hinchcliffe to help him along in that process. Robin, what do you think about Marcus Ericsson this point in the season as he looks to his future in IndyCar?
Well, we took him to the state fair the other night, and he did not get sick on fried foods, but we were talking about ovals, and he said, you know, when I was in Europe, I heard all these horror stories, oh, you'll hate them, they're no good. He goes, I love ovals. He goes, it's the most fun I've ever had driving a race car, and he said, I know I've got a good teammate, and we have good setups, but he said, I really wish there were more ovals, because he said, I think it's been the biggest surprise since I've been in the United States.
He reminds me of Brack. He's just so calm, and Kenny Brack, he's just another Swede that's champion in the sport, and he's just super calm and just goes about his business, doesn't do anything erratic.
Right behind him, Colton Herder's having a nice solid day, and with the crashes from Rossi and Hunter Ray, effectively Herder's kind of flying that Andretti banner, even though it's the sister ship, the sister team. Colton Herder's doing a great job, along with Zach Veach, who's inside the top 10 there in the yellow and black car, as Will Power all over the back of him.
At this lap, do you need any front wing? Yeah, just a little though. 1 turn.
1 turn front wing is the request. Not sure if he said pit this lap. It would seem a little early.
He said when you pit.
Okay. No, he's coming in.
Guys are coming in.
He gave the signal, and his radio just said come in, so pretty early here.
Watch your speed coming in. Check your brakes.
Sure is.
This would make it a 6-stop race if he stayed on these 30-lap stints, as Veach comes to pit lane, 60 miles an hour, peels into his box. Nice clean stop so far. Fuel's already done. Front wing added. Veach is off and away. Now you're going to lose 34 seconds on pit lane. He was about 10 seconds back. A lap here is 43 seconds, so he's probably going to go a lap down until the leaders peel off and pit. We'll see Pagenaud coming down the front straightaway here.
Tony Kanaan's guys are laid out. Here comes Pagenaud. These pit stops are coming now. Let me remind you, back at Indy, the first few rounds of pit stops, guys were
looking outside.
Guys were making mistakes. They were locking it up, speeding penalties, sliding it long through the box. Guys were making mistakes getting the tires on. So these first couple stops on this downforce level are critical not to make a mistake.
Dixon now coming up on the exiting Zach Veach. Pagenaud's already cleared him. Tony Kanaan is in for his first stop of the day. Kev?
He's dealing with some understeer, so they're going to make a tire pressure adjustment. I had a long chat with Tony today about what's been the most frustrating year of his life. He said, I'm trying not to take it out on everyone around me, but I fear I have been at some times. I'm not ready to quit, but I'm not happy continuing this way. I want to feel more comfortable about a light at the end of the tunnel before I make a decision about next year. But he did say, I think you can probably expect me to try one more time.
That was a bit of a slow stop for Kanaan. He had a problem on the outside front, was a little bit late on that one. It dropped him well back in the pack.
You know, thinking more about the strategy of Veach pitting early there, I like the undercut attempt here. He might pick up some positions. Right now he's holding pace with Pagano in the lead. So when the rest of the group circles to pit lane, which is about to happen here in the next few laps, it'll be interesting to see if Veach does improve on that 10th position he was in.
He finished 6th here last year and worked some really good strategy, drove very well. The diminutive man from Ohio, is running well, but nobody better than Pagano at the moment.
First pit stops underway. A 500-mile race from Pocono. Sebastian Bourdais pitting from 5th. He's finished in the top 5 his last 2 runs here at Pocono. He said, I need no changes this first time around. Pretty solid stop for the Coyne Vassar-Sullivan car.
Just got beat out by Graham Rahal, who he's been racing on track. They come up to speed, and here comes Santino Ferrucci at speed right there. And he will sweep around the outside of Graham Rahal. That's tight right there coming out.
He said he was confident in his car up high, and he certainly proved it there. So Ferrucci picking up a spot on the sequence there, on the cycle of pit stops. Pagano's in.
A different shade of yellow, the bright yellow Menards when he won the Indianapolis 500, the yellow Penske truck rental machine. So the leader comes in, as they told him, on lap 37, and that's a really quick stop with Firestones, and then some trouble here. Didn't get into the box, overshot it just a little bit.
That's those little mistakes I keep talking about. These guys get anxious when you got low downforce. Hard to get these cars stopped with these little tiny wings.
He'll lose a massive amount of positions. He might go to the back of the lead lap with that little bobble. Colton Herder sliding along as Scott Dixon now comes to pit lane.
At the end of this stop, Dylan, let's see where Dixon cycles out in regards to closeness to Pagano.
And you heard the radio there of Scott complaining about the tires falling off. Also said the car had a little bit of understeer, so they're going to make a change there to help that.
We're good. You're clear behind.
Scott with a smooth stop there, just under 8 seconds.
I think Pagano's going to easily cover this because here comes Pagano down the front stretch. Simon is already into turn 1. So healthy gap there, no problem.
Look right here. Is that Newgarden maybe going to sweep around the outside?
No, it's Ferrucci.
Wow. Ferrucci.
Look at that.
Look at that.
Inside Scott Dixon down the back straight.
Terrific.
This kid loves ovals.
We've seen this in the past where pitting early on the sequence is an advantage to get out on those fresh tires when guys are still circulating on the old tires. Ferrucci will be behind Pagano and effectively second in the race once the cycles are done. Here's Newgarden.
Front wing adjustment for Joseph Newgarden. Started on the pole, really quick stop. Back out. The leader, Simon Pagano, is long gone. We'll see if Newgarden, where he comes out in relation to Scott Dixon. Dixon will be racing him as he comes through turn 1.
He's going to come out, and these guys are going to sweep around the outside. Maybe Sebastian Bourdais might get him on the exit right here as Graham Rahal goes around the outside, and here comes Bourdais down the back straightaway in the draft.
Looking.
Lost a lot of positions on that. Yellow.
Spencer Pickett. Spencer Pickett in the Ed Carpenter Racing Auto Geek car. And
look on that bump I was complaining about all day.
Did he make it in the pit lane on time for that yellow? He's way down at the end, so I would assume he did. That's a real good stroke of luck right there.
I think I heard Spencer Pickett saying something about on the radio, I've been complaining about the same thing I've been complaining about all day. What a shame.
Exit of turn 1. We'll hopefully get a replay of this. super easy to just get offline, and then you're kind of in the clag, and the car just understeers.
Pitted on lap 35, so he's on fresh tires there, shaking his head.
Yeah, he's into the wall way early, so hopefully if we get another angle of this, but he's way early, so I think you might have missed the line, Townsend, and just been up in the gray area in the marbles, and once you're up there, you can't get the car turned.
Tough break for Spencer Pickett. It's only his second NTT INDYCAR Series race here. Last year, he was collected by Graham Rahal coming to the green flag. The team repaired the car, sent him back out. He made a few positions and got a few more points and then parked it. And then here he's ended in the wall. So 2 races. He's seen the green flag in both and yet to see the checkered flag in an IndyCar race here at Pocono.
Some skid marks going in there, Towns. It looked like he was locked. Look, see those skid marks? I don't know if he lost the rear, but look at those skid marks going in right here.
Broke. It'd be a strange place to lose the car on your own on fresh tires like that.
I don't know
they
if he
did add front wing. They added a turn and a half of front wing when he pitted.
Hinch's car, yeah, in the pit lane now, ready to go. Getting 10-lap penalty added on to that car as well. So he's 39 laps down currently, but add another 10 to that as well. So that'll be 49 laps down currently.
So the goal there for Hinch obviously is to rejoin, just kind of stay out of trouble, and if other cars crash out before 50 laps to go, he'll move up in the finishing order and benefit points-wise.
Got something to show you in regards to this crash here, rather tell you, and we can have a listen. Radio from Spencer Pickett, here it is.
The thing broke on that bump I was complaining about all day.
Yeah, he says something broke. So I saw the skid marks going in there. We didn't really get a good view if he missed the line or not, but I saw that he was locked up, and you see those big skid marks. So he was on the brakes and couldn't get it stopped before the wall, so it looked like something broke.
So there's a couple of areas, particularly in turns 1 and 2, where the bumps seem to have worsened over time. And that certainly gives strength to Spencer Pickett's argument there about something broke over those bumps. I've been telling you about it all day. So frustration there. However, sometimes timing is on your side and sometimes it's not. It is on Will Power's side, because he was right at the back of the pack after being forced to pit under caution earlier for a tire going down. Came back in, got back out. There's the captain, Roger Penske, and then Will slowly worked his way through the field. He got back up to 12th, came in, pitted right at that caution, and has worked his way now back up into 4th in the order, right behind Scott Dixon. Look at this.
Moving up through the pack there for some reason.
Trying to keep a streak alive, and that is getting a win in every season. He's done it for the last 12 years. He'd like to do it for 13. You're watching NBCSN's coverage of IndyCar, brought to you by the all-new Chevy Silverado, the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever. And by Firestone. Drive the tire that drives IndyCar legends. Those amazing images that you're seeing there is just across from the racetrack here in Pocono. It's Pocono Organics. It's the vision of Ashley Walsh, the granddaughter of Drs. Joe and Rose Mattioli, who founded and built Pocono Raceway. Now, Ashley's dream was to create a non-GMO regenerative organic farm that would have significant and positive impact on local and global sales scales by becoming a source of healthy food options, as well as an educational hub to advance the efforts of regenerative organic farming. Really great project. I have to say, I've known Ashley for years. She used to work in television when I was at Speed Channel, and this is a personal passion of hers, and they're doing some really wonderful work. Founded back in 2015, and it has grown
enormously. So well done. Such an amazing project. So when we went to the break, unfortunately, we saw the cleanup of Spencer Pickett's number 21 Ed Carpenter Racing Chevrolet. Let's find out a little bit more from the man himself.
Okay, Spencer, got up to 7th, running a good race. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, just a frustrating end, obviously. In turn 1, hit a bump, and something must have broken on the front of the car over the bump, and from then on, it was just the passenger. It just went kind of dead straight up into the wall. The steering wasn't doing anything, unfortunately. So tough end of the day. Obviously we were running pretty comfortably there in 7th, and the car was feeling pretty good. We kind of lost touch with the group in front, but I felt like we had a solid car, and just feel bad for everyone at Carpenter Racing, and we got to race again next weekend, and now we've got a lot of work to do.
Okay, we'll see you at Gateway, kid. Lee?
Yeah, look forward to seeing him next week. Guys, there's been quite a bit of social media activity from Robert Wickens, from Max Chilton, from Sage Karam, about whether we should be racing, IndyCar should be racing here at all. What do you think, Paul?
Well, I mean, IndyCar's heritage is in the Northeast. They've raced at Trenton, Nazareth, Pocono, Watkins Glen, Loudon. These are the places where IndyCar's known to be from.
Green, green, green is the call. Let's go back racing. And Simon Pagenaud, the Indy 500 champion, leads this race and leads it well. But look who's doing the chasing. His teammate Will Power, a two-time winner here, has come from the back of this field, right around on the high side. Doesn't quite get to the front yet. Will!
Super aggressive moves by Will Power, racing his teammate, who's now squarely in the championship hunt. He backs off there.
Whoa, Pagenaud's car looks so fast on the straights. If you think about the jump he had on the start on Newgard, now Pagenaud's checking out and going to try to reclaim the gap that he established in the first stint. Further back, Marcus Ericsson went way big on the outside going into turn 1. They were 4 wide.
Another good run by Power coming off onto the front straightaways in the draft again. Will he make the move? Will he force him to the outside? Inside he goes as he makes the move. So this is the first time Pagenaud has lost the lead today.
Will Power told me earlier this week he is very cognizant of the fact that his two teammates are in the championship hunt and he will help them however he can. It doesn't look like that at the moment.
Let me help show you the way around here, Simon. As Power to the front, now Pagenaud starts to draw back closer, but I would think Pagenaud might just sit and ride for a little bit right now and see what kind of mileage he can get and study Will Power and potentially shape things up for a move towards the end of the race.
So there's always a thought and wondering, do people really want to lead on a super speedway? I can tell you this, those two up front from Team Penske do. Simon Pagenaud was told, use all the fuel you need here at the beginning. Will Power asked Roger Penske before the restart, should I try to take the lead? Let's listen to the response.
Want me to lead or not? No, I think we just play our game here. It's a long way to go. Just use your head here.
Stick with the plan? I'm not sure. Maybe the plan was to get out there and lead as much as you can, and they shouldn't really need to save fuel because they're well past that first window. Even if it stays green the rest of the way, there shouldn't be a huge amount of fuel saving needed to be able to finish it on 4 more stops.
Pagenaud looking again. He's right there, so he's able to run close, but that was 100% confirmed that he didn't want Power passing.
Well, think about the Indianapolis 500, where the fuel game was discussed. Pagenaud said, I don't want to follow anyone. I want to lead, and he demonstrated by example.
Well, the other story to follow here is Joseph Newgarden, who slipped back to 7th place with Scott Dixon running in the top 3. So that's another strategy that Roger Penske will probably contemplate as these laps unfold, is trying to make sure that his team takes care of this guy, Newgarden, who right now would lead bigger, have a bigger lead coming out of the championship. Here comes Pagenaud.
He got a good run off a 3. His car is really good. He's staying closer to the back of the cars than anybody so far, so he definitely wants to lead. Just like Indianapolis, he likes it out front.
Well, his car just seems crazy fast like it did in Indianapolis as well. Nobody appears to have the straight line speed that 22 Penske truck rental car does right now.
James Hinchcliffe, by the way, is back out on track. That number 5 Arrow Schmidt-Peterson Honda is circulating. Here it is. Good sign to see Hinch back out on track. little further in the pack is Colton Herder, following Ed Carpenter, Graham Rahal.
He had a pretty interesting restart. Let's watch Graham towing up on Colton Herder, I believe, in front. And there goes Sebastian Bourdais to the outside. Let's see what happens to Graham as he's sort of jumbled up to the inside. 3 wide as Ericsson the outside. Graham backs out. Has to give up 2, now 3 spots with Carpenter getting by.
Yeah, you got freight train. That car didn't accelerate. It's kind of similar to Rossi's. It just didn't seem, it looks like it's not geared right for the restarts. But here comes Colton Herder right on the back of Ed Carpenter's car. That long pit stop didn't seem to hurt him too bad because the yellow came out right away.
If you were with us yesterday, either on NBC Sports Gold or NBCSN to show you that 2-hour practice session, you will have noticed that we made comment about Spencer Pickett and Ed Carpenter being second last and last. Checked in with the team this morning and spoke to the engineer, Peter Craik, and said, don't worry about that. He said, Ed Carpenter, he said, if I didn't have to look at the timesheets, I would have thought we would have been at the front of the pack. This car feels great. And this oval specialist, there he is, center of the screen in that red car. He's fighting with Colton Herder now. Herder gets the inside run on the veteran. Ed Carpenter is running nicely inside the top 10.
So that puts Colton Herder to 8th. And we really didn't get to see Colton Herder at Indianapolis because of the technical failure right at the start of the race. I think he could be every bit as exciting as Alexander Rossi as we get into the second half of this 500-miler.
There was a rather odd fuel leak situation on Colton Herder's car that ended him really before the race even got going. It's Simon Pagenaud trying to win both 500-mile races this year.
Look, from Hunter Ray's angle, he wouldn't even have seen Sato come right across in front of him, and then they hit the wall and sweep right into the field and collect 4 other cars. Now here's James Hinchcliffe, who's back on track running now.
James Hinchcliffe was tangled up in that, and this is what he had to say.
It's just crazy, man. Like, it's such a waste of time and money and energy for everybody to come out here, do a 500-mile race, and, you know, half the top 10 end up in the fence in turn 2.
On a more positive note, James is back in a repaired Arrow Schmidt Peterson Honda and is back out on track. So there are the key numbers for you of the race thus far, with 140 laps still to run here at Pocono. Here is Sebastian Bourdais and Marcus Ericsson going at it. Great move from Sebastian, and that was for 5th place.
Look at Newgarden. Gets a look down into 3. He's clear. Smart move by Ericsson to roll out and tuck in. But Colton Herder now will get a run coming down the front straightaway.
Tricky to stay close through turn 3 for Colton Herder, but he manages to hang on. Now he has a nice draft. Will he pop to the inside? Is he close enough?
Late pass in there.
Just gets it done. Ericsson appears to be kind of hanging on at this point. Lap 62, just about time for the next round of pit stops.
Yeah, Ericsson's fallen through the field. He's got passed by 4 cars in literally the span of a lap.
On board with Graham Rahal. Let's take a ride.
Definitely hear him struggling with understeer. He's pedaling it through the corner. Was able to stay close. Now starting to pull up in the draft. On and off the throttle a lot, stabbing at it, Townsend. Not particularly smooth with the throttle.
Falling back here to 10th place. Has a little bit of a run on Ericsson, but he'll breathe it here in turn 2, see if he can get a run going to turn 3 or maybe down the front straightaway. Ericsson quite high off the apex as well. He's struggling. I wonder if he's coming to pit lane. He looks like he might be signaling he's coming in. It wasn't a strong signal, but no, he'll stay out.
Scott Dixon, championship contender and reigning series champion, runs in a strong third. Let's check in with Dylan Welsh and get an update on the Kiwi.
Well, we've heard, obviously, a lot of these drivers have mentioned the importance of track position. Scott Dixon, no exception to that. Listen to what he had to say about where they sit right now in third.
Track position is key here. 2/10 of a gallon from where you are now is okay for track position. Track position in this segment will be really important because there's already a big gap behind Ferrucci. Just keep working at this.
So not only is it important for car handling and a balance perspective, but it's also important for fuel, obviously, and that's maybe the bigger thing here, because the further out front you are by yourself, that obviously wastes more fuel. So being stuck in traffic like that sometimes can be a blessing in disguise if it helps you save fuel.
Yeah, you can run longer on these tires, Townsend, but we saw the advantage Ferrucci had by coming in a little bit earlier, getting those fresh tires. You run a little bit faster, and he leapfrogged to the front on the undercut. So that's going to be the question, is how much do the tires slow down versus coming in and getting fresh ones.
Talk about a pinch me moment. 21-year-old rookie Santino Ferrucci is racing with Scott Dixon, Will Power, and the Indy 500 champion Simon Pagenaud in a quartet all on their own. "131 laps to go here at Pocono Raceway. However, there is some pretty serious weather on the way. And for those of you familiar with NTT INDYCAR Series racing, once 50% of the race is complete, it can be declared. So this may very well, as we start to switch gears strategically, this may very well be, Paul and Townsend, a race to lap 101.
It's entirely possible as Pagenaud's now in traffic with Hinchcliffe really slow out of turn 3. Here comes Will Power. Dixon to pit lane, but Power has a run.
Will Power timed that to perfection with the lapped car. Hinchcliffe is many, many laps down, nearly 50 laps down. Will Power slides it in to turn 1. Here comes Dixon on pit lane.
And all that he said, or all that Scott said, was that the car was pretty good, so no changes expected here for Dixon as he peels off from third. 4 tires and fuel. Graham Rahal in behind him as well, a little bit further down pit road, struggling to keep that race car up inside the top 10 here as he was fading late. 4 tires and fuel for him as well.
And that little checkup between Power and Pagenaud, and now they're in traffic with Marco Andretti. When this cycle happens, Dixon could absolutely be in the lead.
With a slick pit stop, here they come. Here comes both Penske's coming in side by side. Oh, that's Marco. Marco's got to turn in.
That was discussed in the driver's meeting. Look at Marco, so smart, pointing out of his cockpit, I need to get to my box. Kevin, they're coming to you.
So Simon Pagenaud was coming in a couple of laps earlier than expected. About 10 laps ago, Kyle Moyer's call was lap 73 or 74. We also see Colton Herder, who's made a nice charge after a pit stop mistake. His first time, he's coming in and out. Pagenaud has fresh Firestone, Sunoco, he's out, Herder, and then Marco Andretti right behind him.
Where's Dixon? Dixon's gone. Dixon's in the lead, and so is Ferrucci.
The undercut, the traffic, these two guys in the Hondas have just shot by the Chevys with the undercut and the little bit of traffic that held those guys up.
So Will Power is still out, yet to see him pit. But remember, he pitted several laps different to his teammate Simon Pagenaud, etc.
Here's the replay. This is what lost Simon Pagenaud the lead of the race. James Hinchcliffe very slow. Power gets a run. Pagenaud had to check up in turn 3 as Scott Dixon came to pit lane, and that probably shaved a second or 2 off that lap for Pagenaud, which is a massive drop on a super speedway. There's Hinchcliffe trying to stay out of the way, but I think he ended up just slowing up Pagenaud more than he intended.
Nothing Hitch could do. He's doing everything he can do, but this is heads-up driving by Marco Andretti, letting Pagenaud know, hey, I got to get over. Pagenaud smartly backs out, but that also cost him more time as well.
I'm wondering if that was a masterful call on the fly by Mike Hull and Chris Simmons to bring Scott Dixon in there. Oh, big crash. Is that Colton Herder? It is.
And I don't think Power's come to the pits yet. That's really going to hurt him.
What has happened to Colton Herder?
Had a good run going, and just glad you're okay.
Lost it, it looks like, off of turn 2.
I think it's off of turn 2. You're right, Paul. 88 stop, but just between turn 3, you can see the
looks like
serpentine of tire marks there. He had contact on the inside wall.
Nasty gap in the fence right there. So looks like he might have.
He lost it in traffic.
Yeah, it just got loose, clipped the outside, but I think he might have got in the gap in the wall, which is not a good situation.
He was following Joseph Newgarden.
There's the first hit. Let's see what happens here.
Yeah, right into that gap, look.
Into the
if he'd
attenuator.
had more speed there, that could have been more nasty than it was, but it was all scrubbed off by then. And here comes Alexander Rossi.
So the lengthy repair that's been going on in the Andretti Autosport camp, not only for Rossi's car, but also for Ryan Hunter-Reay. The team have been worked overtime today.
Points have changed around. Rossi now is 28 points behind, has moved back into second. Pagenaud is now 41 behind by losing the lead to those two cars.
So you got to stop the pit lane. You got the setup tires. I'll just be careful. Get a car out of here. Get ready to pit.
You can see the repaired bodywork on the militarymotorsports.com side pod there.
Fire up too right now.
Little surprised they wouldn't just put a new one on, Paul.
Yeah, let's not forget, last race is going to be double points. This championship is still wide open. We got repaired cars coming and going. Hinchcliffe is coming in, back in. He's got handling woes. Here's Hunter-Reay.
Did you ever think we'd see Rossi and Ryan Hunter-Reay re-enter this race after that first lap crash?
So Hinchcliffe went back out and turned however many laps, maybe half a dozen, I think, and then he has decided to call it a day. The two Andretti Hondas are back on pit road. Guess what else is coming, guys? A monstrous storm. So now it is a different race. It's a race to lap 101 now, to make that 50% mark.
And there's this little cell popping up right there over Hazleton that could bring the rain even earlier.
Lap penalty here, so we're doing that. Miller, when you get sorted, we need to fill the car.
Listen to you pretending to be your best meteorologist. You had no idea where Hazleton was in the past. You just read it off the screen.
Are you kidding? Some great restaurants out there. Some farm-to-table stuff going on in Hazleton. We would be the last to know. We cooked in the room last night,
I know,
Div.
I know.
A little salmon and pasta.
Don't worry, we're no Bobby Flay, but we did our best.
We did all right.
So what a crazy day. What a wild day it has been here in Pocono, and it will continue to be. Under yellow yet again and racing to beat the rain to halfway. The Andretti Autosport team have done a phenomenal job to get two wrecked race cars in a position to rejoin the racetrack. That's Ryan Hunter-Reay and Alexander Rossi. Now we are under this third full course caution for the reason of a crash suffered by teenage sensation Colton Herder. He's with Robin.
Colton Herder just came out of this medical unit. You all right, brother?
Yeah, I'm fine. You know, feel really bad for the guys and stuff. You know, I think going into the corner right underneath Joseph, I was, you know, preempting a little bit of understeer, so I carried a little bit more speed. But no, I guess with the new tires, I think maybe more of the grip came from the front, and maybe was sliding the rear a little bit more, so it just caught me out, and I feel terrible. We were moving up. The car's really good. You know, you don't usually have the problem that you have too much front grip when you're running on an oval and in traffic. So and that's kind of what we had, and that's what caught me out. So it sucks. You know, we'll keep moving. I'm looking forward to Gateway. You know, it's fun testing there, and you know, great job for Pocono for putting on this event. Thanks for all the fans coming out and waiting for the red flag as well. So sucks, but we'll keep going.
All right, kid. Glad you're all right. Lee Diffie.
Thank you, Robin. Yep. Thanks to Colton for giving us some time. Now, I want to take you back to some interesting radio from the man who has led some 63 laps of this race from his team. That's Simon Pagenaud. Let's have a listen to team radio.
They pitted the lap before.
You got to be heads up, guys. This should not happen.
Totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah, no problem. Communication is good.
Yeah, if we wouldn't have had the problem with Hinch, if he would have let us through like he should have, then we would have been okay.
A little bit of frustration there from Simon. Just these guys are getting the better of them on the undercut, but the traffic really was the key in that, and in holding him up, and the pit lane having to slow down to let Marco get into his pit box.
And again, when you hear Paul and Townsend describe the undercut, it's somebody else diving to pit lane first and having a really good outlap, and by the time the people who are leading, like Simon Pagenaud, have pitted, Scott Dixon already comes out ahead. So power to Scott Dixon and to Santino Ferrucci for what they have been able to do over Simon Pagenaud at this point in the race. Now, while we're away, the man who was leading the race, Will Power, came in, no problem. And Townsend, you had an interesting comment during the break that this might be the top-up that
wins the race, depending on rain. If some of the leaders right now have to pit before now Will Power because he'll have more fuel, that could be just lucky timing on the rain that's on its way.
And all these rookies that have had trouble today, Colton Herder just crashed out, Rosenquist out on the first lap. This guy right here, Santino Ferrucci, getting a stranglehold now on the Rookie of the Year points. He's currently having a great run in second place, just keeping his nose clean, doing everything he needs to do. But right now, he should be leading pretty comfortably in the Rookie of the Year points. We just got word he's 5 behind, so he's closed the gap down.
Terrific stuff. Ferrucci just has this uncanny, almost like sixth sense on what it takes, Dylan, to work the ovals, work traffic, and the decision-making under chaos has been perfect this year.
Yeah, it's really remarkable, and you and Paul both can expand on that, I'm sure, having driven these cars, but it really is amazing how quickly he's adapted. And to the rookie points battle, they've been keeping him afloat all afternoon long of where those other 3 guys are running, and obviously encouraging news to be ahead of them. But he mentioned that these last 4 races, they really feel like that this is an opportunity for them to show what they can do. As you see here, the evasive driving that he had to take here earlier on this lap number 1 incident, but he mentioned the point that they feel like that they're way better than being on the fringe of top 10 runs, which is where they've been this year. They want to use today and these last 4 races to kind of kick it up a notch, especially with another oval next week. A great opportunity for them to have 2 really, really good weekends in a row, and so far so good for Ferrucci as he runs second.
Townsend, he's got an uncanny ability to just pick the right way to go. He's got a little Superman logo on the top of his head, but it's like he's got Spidey sense, like Spider-Man skills.
Well, let's take a look at Spider-Man here, or Superman. This was Indianapolis, saw a gap, saw the grass, got after the gas to make it through. This was on the streets of Toronto. Things got all jumbled up off the back straightaway. Again, he finds a hole and finds a way to apply the throttle, gain positions, and stay out of trouble. This was Iowa. Ridiculous restart. Outside, 4 wide, and it's about to happen again here for Ferrucci. What can he do on a 5-time champion?
All right, this is kind of surreal stuff for Santino Ferrucci. He sits behind a 5-time champion and ahead of the reigning Indy 500 champion. Incredible stuff from the Dale Coyne Racing rookie. Ready to come to green. And this could be a 20-lap shootout to get to lap 101 and beat the rain. Green flag flies. Let's go here in Pocono.
Dixon gets the jump, but Pagenaud with another great run, making a move on Ferrucci on the outside. Look at Will Power diving to the inside.
Will Power wants to get back. He's behind his teammate, but not right there in the corner. Not a great restart by Ferrucci, but look at Dixon up high a little bit.
Look at Ed Carpenter. Ed Carpenter right around the outside. He's put himself into the top 5. The red car.
3 wide at the back there.
Ed makes a move on Joseph Newgarden. That's for 4th place. Ed Carpenter on a charge.
Power going by his teammate. That's not going to help the point situation. At some point, he's going to need to play the teammate to Newgarden. He's the championship leader.
That move, I was watching our live points timing. That took 2 points off Newgarden's lead. Power passing Newgarden for 5th place.
Inside move there. Looked like Charlie Kimball on Sebastian Bourdais.
Rossi still in the pit lane, waiting to fire up. They're sitting there on pit lane.
Whoa, Bourdais!
He did didn't appreciate being passed. He wanted to get that position back. Now Charlie's back on the inside.
Charlie does the over-under, but he's not close enough up.
Woo! Graham Rahal running 10th.
Dixon in front, Ferrucci sitting there.
Pagano stalking in the yellow car. Just trying to think about a way to figure out how to get to the front where he's been happiest all day.
I can tell you that Michael Cannon, renowned engineer, and who happens to be calling the shots for the little guy in second, Super Santino, Michael Cannon would be loving every second of this. He's worked with some of the biggest names in IndyCar over the years. Now he's in control of this kid, and the kid's delivering.
Just watching the hands here with Ferrucci, he seems so confident in traffic. He talked about that confidence all throughout practice. Felt high, running high, low, in traffic. He said the car was just absolutely locked down and stable. That's what you want in dirty, turbulent air.
Santino doesn't have a contract in place for next year. He's got long-term supporters that have supported him throughout his career. Right now, the way he's running, he's going to be on everybody's radar right now that's looking for a driver.
You want a long-term future in IndyCar with the best teams? You do what he's doing right now, which is run with 2 champions. In the case of Dixon, a 5-time champion. And he's got to be good on these big tracks, and especially at Indianapolis, where he showed so strong.
And guess what? With Rossi being bounced out on that opening lap, he'll come back. But now this young man in second from Woodbury, Connecticut, has completed more laps than any other racer, even the superstars that he's surrounded by right now.
He has about 200 guests here. Since he's from Connecticut, closest track for him, I guess the home track, even though he's never raced here. Dylan, what do you got?
Let's check in with Dylan.
And guys, we obviously just tried to chat with Michael Cannon, and he's a busy guy right now trying to guide his driver to the front, so he declined to talk because he's got some other things on his agenda right now, trying to make sure that he can guide his driver around Scott Dixon here and try and seek after that first win. Robin?
Well, think about this. I've been texting Zach Brown back and forth, the guy that's the CEO of McLaren. He's wanting phone numbers of drivers, phone numbers of engineers. If you're Zach Brown, why wouldn't you go after Ferrucci and Cannon in a package? I mean, if you're looking for somebody to build your future around, wouldn't you go after these 2?
Michael Cannon was a guy that I worked with at Forsyth Racing. He was always the guy that has kind of brought up the young drivers. One of the main guys that he helped propel his career was our NBC analyst, AJ Allmendinger. Once he connected with Michael Cannon, AJ was on a tear winning races.
I want to say something too on a personal note. About a year ago, Michael had some pretty serious health challenges. So for him to be back in this position and guiding this exciting young driver in Santino Ferrucci, just sometimes how life and work can reward you all in one. Scott Dixon leads the way on lap 89 of 200. But with the storm approaching, it's highly unlikely we'll see that 200th lap. ABC Supply 500. Race 14 of 17 continues here on NBCSN, live from Pocono Raceway, where it has been an eventful day. A 5-car pileup on the opening lap. Everybody avoiding serious injury. I can tell you that Felix Rosenquist of Chip Ganassi Racing has made it to Lehigh Valley Hospital in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and is undergoing further examination, but again, non-life-threatening injuries for the Swedish rookie. And then Spencer Pickett crashed out, and most recently, Colton Herder has crashed out of the race. Scott Dixon leads, 21-year-old rookie Santino Ferrucci.
And they are starting to stretch out, Townsend, on Simon Pagano. Power has recovered from being a little bit late to the pits, gotten by his teammate, and he's sitting on Pagano, but these guys have pulled out about 2 seconds as we look at Tony Kanaan.
Yeah, the ABC Supply 500 and the ABC car having a nice run today. Started all the way at the back, but was fastest in practice, and he's starting to find that speed here, running in 7th. I'm a little surprised, guys, with rain approaching and as fast as Pagano's car was in the first 80 laps, that he's not closer to Dixon and Ferrucci. Pagano 1.7 seconds back, and I think he might be getting a little nervous about it if you listen to this radio.
You've got to be P1 up P2. Anyway, behind that, you're stuck.
I know, copy that. What we'll do is here is when those guys move, then we'll take off, try to do a few laps here and see if we can jump them.
So Pagano's talking about how he really needs to be up front, and Paul, you and I were down on the grid along with Lee Diffie, looking at Pagano's car at the start of the race, and we noticed he was pretty trimmed out. That only works when you're running up front.
But what I just heard is that they're going to try to run longer, run 2 laps longer, and that hasn't played out so far. Everybody that's pitted earlier, got the fresh tires, has been able to jump ahead.
Came out better, yeah.
And that could only lead to more frustration from Pagano if the rain holds off when we get through the next cycle of pit stops. Still blue skies above, things are looking good. There's Pagano, Will Power behind, and then Ed Carpenter further back, and then Newgarden. Right now, I have to point out that Scott Dixon would only be 40 points behind Newgarden if they finished in this order from 62. Think about where he was 4 races ago, and Scott Dixon has the championship firmly in his sights.
After Iowa, Scott always said, you hit a point in the season, you can't really be more than 100 points out. After Iowa, which is not that long ago, he was 98 points back. So to more than halve that has been phenomenal, but this race is far from done. It's time to go through the field. Let's go down to the boys in the pits.
And Lee, Mike Cole, the strategist for Scott Dixon, who leads this race right now, described this team as process people. They take what the race gives them, and then they adapt from there. And when you do that several times like they have even this year, that helps make it a little bit easier some more. So that's what they've done. They've gotten used to some of these guys undercutting them on these pit stops. They've adapted their game plan accordingly, and right now they're holding on to the race lead in that 9 car. Behind him, right there in the white car, Santino Ferrucci. He runs in the 2nd spot, another oval. He continues to impress with his oval prowess. This week, he's had his teammate Sebastian Bourdais kind of helping him with some of the specific nuances and characteristics of this track. The bumps, the things like that that can upset the car, that's all been something that he's leaned on his teammate, the veteran Sebastian Bourdais, for. So far, it seems to be working as Ferrucci runs 2nd. Kevin?
That yellow car next in line, and 3rd is Simon Pagano. To expand on what Townsend was talking about, yes, he was more trimmed out when you were on the grid, but they changed to the full wicker with more downforce right before it went green to be able to deal with traffic. But they had tuned the car to lead, which was where they thought he was going to be until he got bogged up behind the car many laps down of James Hinchcliffe. So now he's trying to adjust. As you heard, it's very difficult in traffic. Will Power also running behind him, his teammate in 4th, dealing with understeer right now, wanting to make an adjustment at the next pit stop, Dylan.
Ed Carpenter runs 5th. Nice run going for this team. He said earlier if he hadn't looked at the charts, he'd have felt a lot better. The car was balanced, just didn't have a lot of speed yesterday in practice. That's kind of been the story of their year. Good cars and pace, but just don't have the results to show for it. The goal is to put together some good results these last 4 races. They're on their way to 1 right now, Kev.
Championship leader Joseph Newgarden, like so many, dealing with problems in traffic. He started on the point. He was hoping to be able to run up front. The car was good there, but he had concerns all weekend long how it was going to handle in traffic, and he is riding in 6th right now. Behind him is Tony Kanaan. As documented, he's made the most spots up since the start of this race with Charlie Kimball at 12. Big gap back to the 7th position. Kanaan has really upped his fitness game. If it's any problem with being older, he says, no, I'm fit as I've ever been. He's biking 400 to 450 miles per week, including 30 yesterday on the stationary bike, Dylan. Sebastian Bourdais, I'm sorry, is 8th back right behind Tony Kanaan, and Bourdais is pretty happy. He lost some positions on this last restart. He was not in the right gear. I think the restart surprised him a little bit and lost a couple of positions, but overall the car has been good. And remember, Bourdais has finished in the top 5 in his last 2 runs here at Pocono. Charlie Kimball, as mentioned, has made up a lot of spots. Starting on points, he had to start in the back. This is only the 4th race he's done this year. It was scheduled for 5, but he's going to get a bonus. He'll be in the oval at Gateway coming up as well, Dylan.
Graham Rahal rounds out the top 10 in the 15 car and had a promising day going, but they've since fallen back. That's kind of been the story of their season as well, feeling like they start out the races strong and then struggle to kind of keep grips with the race car. Graham came on the radio a few laps ago and said, we got to figure this car out. We got to be better. better. So that's their mission here for the remaining half of this race. Be better, figure out how they can improve this car. And behind him, the driver that started 22nd and having a really nice run today, back in the Carlin car, that's Connor Daly in the 59. He said practice yesterday was the most efficient session they've had in their 3 weeks together as a team. The lack of qualifying kind of hurt them. They felt like they were going to be able to put together a nice lap there, start a little farther forward. Didn't have that opportunity, but they just made the best of it today and want to get a top 10. Connor feels like they're able to do that. Just haven't been able to yet, but he's knocking on the door, running 11.
And news in recent days, as Matthias Laced heads to pit lane, is that Connor Daly will be back with Andretti Autosport for the season finale at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca in that familiar US Air Force color scheme and car that he ran at the Indianapolis 500 to round out the season. So what has started out as what looked like being a fairly lean season has turned out to be pretty good for Connor.
And Connor has worked his tail off to make all of that happen. The Air Force so impressed with the job he did at Indy. It's nice to see them step up as the ABC cars there cycle through, and here comes Bourdais trying to work on Matthias Laced, who just came out of pit lane.
We have reached the halfway point, and when you look over turn 3 and turn 2, there's a huge black cloud rolling in right now. So these guys are going to be racing hard. Look at the sky, it's black.
Kev?
Joseph Newgarden came in the early sequence last time around trying for the undercut. He's going to try it again. We think we'll see his teammate Simon Pagenaud about 4 laps from now. They are in the window still to do it in 5. Keep in mind, some teams are thinking as Newgarden pulls back out with a good stop with fresh Firestones that we might see rain before the end of this race. Around lap 180 is what Kyle Moyer just told his team to be prepared for. So they have some alternate strategy options to make sure you're out front there at that point.
Well, if I had to pick a team that would have the resources to send some helicopters out and study the rain, it would be Team Penske. So lap 180, that's interesting. That's further than I thought they'd go.
This is a big enough cloud that we might see some lightning, and that could stop things as well. Forget about the rain. We've had so many lightning problems this year, but Dylan, here comes Graham Rahal.
And they're going to try to improve on that balance of the race car like we just talked about there in that through the field. So Speedway fuel, Firestone tires going on here for Graham Rahal. Nice smooth stop, just under 7 seconds.
Graham is fighting.
We're going to get out there, let's go, let's get a push. We're going to push till everybody pits, we got to go.
Push, push, push. From second place, here is Santino Ferrucci.
And they'd love to have a good stop here. Nice smooth stop to keep that second place track position they have right now as Santino hits his marks. Firestone tires going on here. Speedway fuel as well. And a little bit of a hiccup taking off, but Ferrucci down away. Ed Carpenter is behind him as well, as you see there, continuing his strong run. Nice smooth stop for them as Carpenter pulls away.
Great stop for Ferrucci, as you can see Dixon's guys on pit lane getting ready. Ferrucci with a 6.8 second stop. He could very well take the lead on the undercut, but here comes number 9.
Oh, a little lockup as he comes in. Will he be able to get the undercut, Ferrucci?
You imagine that, if the Clydell manufacturing Honda can do it for Dale Coyne Racing. Here's Dixon's stop.
And listen to when he pulls away here. He's been having some issues bogging down once he drops the car off the air jack, so they're telling him not to be on the limiter when he pulls away. He pulls away flawlessly there. Nice stop with a front wing change for Dixon.
Now we see Ferrucci in the lower right. He's on the front straightaway at full speed. Here comes Dixon. This is going to be close, Paul, down in turn 1.
I think he's got him. He's got enough gap there, but Ferrucci now just needs to draft back up. But we'll see where Pagenaud comes out now. Pagenaud is going to run 2 laps further and try to run fast, run rich. But here he comes. He went 1 lap further. Will this help him or will it hurt him?
Guys here, they're going to help you out a little bit.
So Kyle Moyer talking Simon Pagenaud in. He has to go around Sebastian Bourdais' tires. Will Power also was just told by Roger Penske. Pagenaud is pushing. You've got to push for this lap. Another couple of laps before Power has to pit. Front wing adjustment. Remember, he's been really struggling in traffic. Let's see where Pagenaud comes back out in relation to Dixon.
Dixon start finish line.
A little tight to get in the box. He had to come around.
Going to be close with Ferrucci.
It will be close. Ferrucci at speed. Pagenaud trying to get to speed. Here comes Ferrucci. He might get him on the back straightaway.
He might get him by turn 2, but it's going to be tight. He's got the draft. He's up to speed.
Oh,
he's drafting up. It's going to be a late pass, but I think he's going to play this one smart.
Oh, tricky turn 2.
Tell you what, Ferrucci's got a good head on his shoulders. He played that smart.
All right, INDYCAR, get a run on him.
Still got cold tires, so he's got on hot tires. He's going to get a run here.
Looked pretty good there. It's very hard to stay close off of turn 3. He had a four-wheel slide up to the wall, but Pagano's so fast on the straights.
Credit to Team Penske and the 22. And Ferrucci, they're not doing anything desperate. Still a long way to go in this race. And meanwhile, while the focus is on them, Scott Dixon has just taken off. He's got a good couple of seconds up the road. There he is on these guys.
Yeah, that really helped Dixon on Ferrucci to be held up there with Pagano coming out of the pits. It gives Dixon some breathing room.
A big black cloud still rolling in here off of turn 3 and turn 2.
You talk about big black,
I'm telling you, it's
like dark blue.
It's coming. Look at that sky.
You know what, though? I think it's moving further north. It seems to be pushing. I'm saying that optimistically. We
Look at that.
This.
It's more of a purple. Wind's starting to pick up a little bit. Look at that. Look at the sun peeking through the clouds. That is heavenly.
Where's that? Is that near Hazleton?
It's just heavenly Hazleton is producing that effect right now. Shout out to the people of Hazleton. We love you out there.
Will Power in the lead right now with Kimball, Daly, and Erickson have yet to pit, but here they come. Penske calls them in.
What a day it's been for a variety of reasons, and it's far from done here in Pocono. ABC Supply 500. Race 14 of 17 continues here on NBCSN, live from Pocono Raceway, where it has been an eventful day. A 5-car pileup on the opening lap. Everybody avoiding serious injury. I can tell you that Felix Rosenquist of Chip Ganassi Racing has made it to Lehigh Valley Hospital in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and is undergoing further examination, but again, non-life-threatening injuries for the Swedish rookie. And then Spencer Pickett crashed out, and most recently, Colton Herder has crashed out of the race. Scott Dixon leads, 21-year-old rookie Santino Ferrucci.
And they are starting to stretch out, Townsend, on Simon Pagano. Power has recovered from being a little bit late to the pits, gotten by his teammate, and he's sitting on Pagano, but these guys have pulled out about 2 seconds as we look at Tony Kanaan.
Yeah, the ABC Supply 500 and the ABC car having a nice run today. Started all the way at the back, but was fastest in practice, and he's starting to find that speed here, running in 7th. I'm a little surprised, guys, with rain approaching and as fast as Pagano's car was in the first 80 laps, that he's not closer to Dixon and Ferrucci. Pagano 1.7 seconds back, and I think he might be getting a little nervous about it if you listen to this radio.
It's got to be P1 up P2. Anyway, behind that, you suck.
I know, copy that. What we'll do is here is when those guys move, then we'll take off, try to do a few laps here and see if we can jump them.
So Pagano's talking about how he really needs to be up front. And Paul, you and I were down on the grid along with Lee Diffie, looking at Pagano's car at the start of the race, and we noticed he was pretty trimmed out. That only works when you're running up front.
But what I just heard is that they're going to try to run longer, run 2 laps longer, and that hasn't played out so far. Everybody that's pitted earlier, got the fresh tires, has been able to jump ahead.
Came out better, yeah.
And that could only lead to more frustration from Pagano if the rain holds off and we get through the next cycle of pit stops. Still blue skies above, things are looking good. There's Pagano, Will Power behind, and then Ed Carpenter further back, and then Newgarden. Right now, I have to point out that Scott Dixon would only be 40 points behind Newgarden if they finished in this order from 62. Think about where he was 4 races ago, and Scott Dixon has the championship firmly in his sights.
After Iowa, Scott always said, you hit a point in the season, you can't really be more than 100 points out. After Iowa, which is not that long ago, he was 98 points back. So to more than halve that has been phenomenal, but this race is far from done. It's time to go through the field. Let's go down to the boys in the pits.
And Lee, Mike Cole, the strategist for Scott Dixon, who leads this race right now, described this team as process people. They take what the race gives them, and then they adapt from there. And when you do that several times like they have even this year, that helps to make it a little bit easier some more. So that's what they've done. They've gotten used to some of these guys undercutting them on these pit stops. They've adapted their game plan accordingly, and right now they're holding on to the race lead in that 9 car. Behind him, right there in the white car, Santino Ferrucci. He runs in the 2nd spot, another oval. He continues to impress with his oval prowess. This week, he's had his teammate Sebastian Bourdais kind of helping him with some of the specific nuances and characteristics of this track. The bumps, the things like that that can upset the car, that's all been something that he's leaned on his teammate, the veteran Sebastian Bourdais, for. So far, it seems to be working as Ferrucci runs 2nd. Kevin?
That yellow car next in line, and 3rd is Simon Pagenaud. To expand on what Townsend was talking about, yes, he was more trimmed out when you were on the grid, but they changed to the full wicker with more downforce right before it went green to be able to deal with traffic. But they had tuned the car to lead, which was where they thought he was going to be until he got bogged up behind the car many laps down of James Hinchcliffe. So now he's trying to adjust. As you heard, it's very difficult in traffic. Will Power also running behind him, his teammate in 4th, dealing with understeer right now, wanting to make an adjustment at the next pit stop, Dylan.
Ed Carpenter runs 5th. Nice run going for this team. He said earlier if he hadn't looked at the charts, he'd have felt a lot better. The car was balanced, just didn't have a lot of speed yesterday in practice. That's kind of been the story of their year. Good cars and pace, but just don't have the results to show for it. The goal is to put together some good results these last 4 races. They're on their way to one right now, Kev.
Championship leader Joseph Newgarden, like so many, dealing with problems in traffic. He started on the point. He was hoping to be able to run up front. The car was good there, but he had concerns all weekend long how it was going to handle in traffic, and he is riding in 6th right now. Behind him is Tony Kanaan. As documented, he's made the most spots up since the start of this race with Charlie Kimball at 12. Big gap back to the 7th position. Kanaan has really upped his fitness game. If it's any problem with being older, he says, no, I'm fit as I've ever been. He's biking 400 to 450 miles per week, including 30 yesterday on the stationary bike, Dylan. Sebastian Bourdais, I'm sorry, is 8th back right behind Tony Kanaan, and Bourdais is pretty happy. He lost some positions on this last restart. He was not in the right gear. I think the restart surprised him a little bit and lost a couple of positions, but overall the car has been good. And remember, Bourdais has finished in the top 5 in his last 2 runs here at Pocono. Charlie Kimball, as mentioned, has made up a lot of spots. Starting on points, he had to start in the back. This is only the 4th race he's done this year. It was scheduled for 5, but he's going to get a bonus. He'll be in the oval at Gateway coming up as well, Dylan.
Graham Rahal rounds out the top 10 in the 15 car and had a promising day going, but they've since fallen back. That's kind of been the story of their season as well, feeling like they start out the races strong and then struggle to kind of keep grips with the race car. Graham came on the radio a few laps ago and said, we got to figure this car out. We got to be better. So that's their mission here for the remaining half of this race. Be better, figure out how they can improve this car. And behind him, the driver that started 22nd and having a really nice run today, back in the Carlin car, that's Connor Daly in the 59. He said practice yesterday was the most efficient session they've had in their 3 weeks together as a team. The lack of qualifying kind of hurt them. They felt like they were going to be able to put together a nice lap there, start a little farther forward. Didn't have that opportunity, but they just made the best of it today and want to get a top 10. Connor feels like they're able to do that. Just haven't been able to yet, but he's knocking on the door, running 11.
And news in recent days as Matthias Laced heads to pit lane is that Connor Daly will be back with Andretti Autosport for the season finale at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca in that familiar US Air Force color scheme and car that he ran at the Indianapolis 500 to round out the season. So what has started out as what looked like being a fairly lean season has turned out to be pretty good for Connor.
And Connor has worked his tail off to make all of that happen. The Air Force so impressed with the job he did at Indy. It's nice to see them step up as the ABC cars there cycle through, and here comes Bourdais trying to work on Matthias Laced, who just came out of pit lane.
We have reached the halfway point, and when you look over turn 3 and turn 2, there's a huge black cloud rolling in right now. So these guys are going to be racing hard. Look at the sky. It's black.
Kev?
Joseph Newgarden came in the early sequence last time around, trying for the undercut. He's going to try it again. We think we'll see his teammate Simon Pagenaud about 4 laps from now. They are in the window, still to do it in 5. Keep in mind, some teams are thinking as Newgarden Newgarden pulls back out with a good stop with fresh Firestones, that we might see rain before the end of this race. Around lap 180 is what Kyle Moyer just told his team to be prepared for, so may have some alternate strategy options to make sure you're out front there at that point.
Well, if I had to pick a team that would have the resources to send some helicopters out and study the rain, it would be Team Penske. So lap 180. That's interesting. That's further than I thought they'd go.
This is a big enough cloud that we might see some lightning, and that could stop things as well. Forget about the rain. We've had so many lightning problems this year, but Dylan, here comes Graham Rahal.
And they're going to try to improve on that balance of the race car like we just talked about there in that through the field. So Speedway fuel, Firestone tires going on here for Graham Rahal. Nice smooth stop, just under 7 seconds.
Graham is fighting.
We're going to get out there and let's go. Let's get a push. We're going to push till everybody pits. We got to go.
Push, push, push. From second place, here is Santino Ferrucci.
And they'd love to have a good stop here. Nice smooth stop to keep that second place track position they have right now as Santino hits his marks. Firestone tires going on here. Speedway fuel as well. And a little bit of a hiccup taking off, but Ferrucci down away. Ed Carpenter is behind him as well, as you see there, continuing his strong run. Nice smooth stop for them as Carpenter pulls away.
Great stop for Ferrucci, as you can see Dixon's guys on pit lane getting ready. Ferrucci with a 6.8 second stop. He could very well take the lead on the undercut, but here comes number 9.
Oh, a little lockup as he comes in. Will he be able to get the undercut, Ferrucci?
Imagine that, if the Clydell Manufacturing Honda can do it for Dale Coyne Racing. Here's Dixon's stop.
And listen to when he pulls away here. He's been having some issues bogging down once he drops the car off the air jack, so they're telling him not to be on the limiter when he pulls away. Pulls away flawlessly there. Nice stop with a front wing change for Dixon.
Now we see Ferrucci in the lower right. He's on the front straightaway at full speed. Here comes Dixon. This is going to be close, Paul, down in turn 1.
I think he's got him. He's got enough gap there, but Ferrucci now just needs to draft back up. But we'll see where Pagano comes out now. Pagano is going to run 2 laps further and try to run fast, run rich. But here he comes. He went 1 lap further. Will this help him or will it hurt him?
Guys here, they're going to help you out a little bit.
So Kyle Moyer talking Simon Pagano in. He has to go around Sebastian Bourdais' tires. Will Power also was just told by Roger Penske. Pagano is pushing. You got to push for this lap. Another couple of laps before Power has to pit. Front wing adjustment. Remember, he's been really struggling in traffic. Let's see where Pagano comes back out in relation to Dixon.
Dixon start finish line.
A little tight to get in the box. He had to come around.
Going to be close with Ferrucci.
It will be close. Ferrucci at speed. Pagano trying to get to speed. Here comes Ferrucci. He might get him on the back straightaway.
He might get him by turn 2, but it's going to be tight. He's got the draft. He's up to speed.
Oh,
he's drafting up. It's going to be a late pass, but I think he's going to play this one smart.
Oh, tricky turn 2.
Tell you what, Ferrucci's got a good head on his shoulders. He played that smart.
All right, INDYCAR, get a run on him.
Still got cold tires. So he's got on hot tires. He's going to get a run here.
Looked pretty good there. It's very hard to stay close off of turn 3. He had a 4-wheel slide up to the wall, but Pagano's so fast on the straights.
Credit to Team Penske and the 22. And Ferrucci, they're not doing anything desperate. Still a long way to go in this race. And meanwhile, while the focus is on them, Scott Dixon has just taken off. He's got a good couple of seconds up the road. There he is on these guys.
Yeah, that really helped Dixon on Ferrucci to be held up there with Pagano coming out of the pits. It gives Dixon some breathing room.
A big black cloud still rolling in here off of turn 3 and turn 2.
You talk about big black,
I'm
man.
telling you, it's
like dark blue.
It's coming. Look at that sky.
You know what, though? I think it's moving further north. It seems to be pushing. I'm saying that optimistically. We
Look at that.
This.
It's more of a purple. Wind's starting to pick up a little bit. Look at that. Look at the sun peeking through the clouds. That is heavenly.
Where's that? Is that near Hazleton?
It's just heavenly Hazleton is producing that effect right now. Shout out to the people of Hazleton. We love you out there.
Will Power in the lead right now with Kimball, Daly, and Erickson have yet to pit, but here they come. Penske calls them in.
What a day it's been for a variety of reasons, and it's far from done here in Pocono. Back at Pocono, and a new race leader. Will Power, a two-time winner here. And as we went to the break, you saw him heading to pit lane. Made that stop, pitted some 5 laps after Scott Dixon, and takes control of this race.
Came out on fresh tires, tracked down Dixon, turned the fastest lap of the race in the process, and just had a brilliant run out of turn 3. Just got inside for turn 1 to make the move.
He's the first guy to make the overcut work. He ran about 3 laps longer than everybody, jumped a couple guys on the pit stop, got out behind Dixon and cranked it up on fresh tires, and now has taken the lead and taken off.
By the way, that fastest lap was 215 miles an hour. Speedway lap leaders. Pagenaud owns 64 laps, Dixon 32, and Will Power some 18, but that's going to grow as well. So Will Power, Scott Dixon, Simon Pagenaud, Santino Ferrucci, the rookie, and Joseph Newgarden, championship leader, in the top 5. Ed Carpenter running a good 6th. Bourdais, Canaan could get his season best result here today. Graham Rahal and Charlie Kimball.
So taking a look at the radar, that big mass just looms ever closer. Hasn't quite hit Hazelton there. That's the one we're keeping an eye on. But it looks like it's definitely going to hit us, Paul. Just a question of when.
Question of when, and as a question, is there lightning in that as well? Because if we get lightning strikes within 7 miles of the track, they'll need to stop the race as well. As Power sweeps by Rossi, who's back on track now. As the points sit, Rossi's in P2, 35 points behind the leader. So the day has been disastrous, but it's not as bad as it could have been.
More than doubled his points deficit to Joseph Newgarden. It's not the day that Alexander Rossi was hoping for. It was him and Will Power fighting it out last year, but for the win of the race. This time, it could be Will's first win of this 2019 season.
Double points for the last race of the year, so let's not forget that, and it's on a road course, so anything can happen. This is wide open still. We've got Dixon is only 52 behind, so this thing's wide open as we speak going down to the last race.
Really interesting final few races of the season. From here at Pocono, the 2.5 mile oval, to the 1.25 mile oval next week at Gateway. Then after that, to the Pacific Northwest for the 2nd year in succession, returning to Portland International Raceway. It was a phenomenal return last year, and then finishing at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca towards the end of September. We mentioned about the past successes of Will Power. He went back-to-back, 2016 and 2017, and was narrowly denied the three-peat last year by Alexander Rossi. And here's that really unique move that he pulled off to hold off teammate Joseph Newgarden.
So clever, running low off at turn 2 to take away the advantage, and huge satisfaction pulling off the 2 in a row here at Pocono, as Power's gap now to Dixon, 2.1 seconds.
I'll tell you what, if he pulls it off today, you'll see a lot more emotion than you saw on those last 2 highlights, Kevin.
Oh, he desperately wants to extend that season win streak to 13 and make sure he keeps any of his teammates' rivals from picking up winning points. Keep in mind, it looked like it was going to be an awful day. He took debris on that crash in the open, had to pit, lost from 3rd all the way to the back, but he's benefited from a caution to get back up in the mix, and being off sequence has allowed him to go about 5 laps longer. So what he may be thinking right now, if rain is 15 minutes away and everyone is racing for this, if it's getting close, they're eventually going to want to stay out and make sure they don't pit right before rain comes and someone else has not pitted, Dylan.
Kevin, Will Power is on the move forward for Scott Dixon behind him. He's on the way backwards. He's struggling here. That last pit stop, they came down and made a front wing change. Listen to how Scott has handled that change and what he's feeling in the race car.
Scott, we went the right way on the front wing. Tire pressures are up. All we did was change tires there. Same. We went through in Iowa.
So what he said there was that it was way different than what they had in the past. Scott was asking if they had went the right way. You heard Mike Cole there, the strategist, say they did in fact go the right way. So just not working with the race car, the balance has been a little upset since that last stop. So Scott going to try to make do here and see what they can do here. Again, that last stop was on lap 106. So we'll see that here, and you can be able to see the front wing once they go around here and change 4 tires. The left front tire changer there will lean across and change the front wing, and the concern was that they went the wrong way, but they did in fact go the correct way, just not handling the way they wanted to.
Yeah, the stagger can change a little bit, Townsend, from tire to tire, and that can throw the balance way off on these things once they come up to temperature and pressure.
This is throwing off Scott Dixon's race. Mateus Laced out there circulating in front of Dixon a lap down, and that's allowed Pagano to get way closer to Dixon. Meanwhile, Will Power at about a 5-second gap up the road and growing.
Dixon, who is the ultimate family man, spent some time with a group of young kids earlier this week, an initiative from PNC Bank. He read to some 30-odd pre-K children at the Mountain Center at nearby Tobiana before putting on the helmet and getting into work mode this weekend. And again, he's got his own for his wife Emma. They're expecting their 3rd child.
Clouds getting darker and darker. Word on the street is, Townsend, it's raining in Hazleton.
Kevin Lee said 15 minutes out. We'll find out when we come back here to Pocono. Lots going to play.
Will Power hopes he's where he is when it hits. Under caution here at Pocono. And we've just received word, that's why I was pausing, just received word it's not actually for rainfall on the track, it's lightning within that 7-mile radius.
And it's going to be rainfall shortly thereafter. As you can see, the darkness looming coming out of the west. But Paul, you called it. Lightning generally precedes
and listen,
the moisture.
There's another aspect to this too, is that the medical chopper needs to leave in case of an emergency. And that is the reason right now.
We cannot underscore that this track has lost a fan to lightning in the past during a NASCAR event, so they have to stop this race if there is lightning in the area.
You can clearly see the seam of the weather, if you will, tale of 2 stories really at both ends of the track. If I look down to turn 1, it looks like a perfect summer day. There's that medical helicopter standing ready.
And look, yesterday there was the reason why practice 1 never eventuated, because where the medical chopper was coming from, it couldn't take off to get here. So there's going to be no on-track activity in that regard. And now it's the reverse. If indeed there was a crash serious enough where one of the drivers needed to be airlifted to hospital, the medical chopper couldn't leave the facility because of lightning in the area. So 128 laps have been completed, with Will Power on top, Scott Dixon second, Simon Pagano third, Santino Ferrucci fourth, and Joseph Newgarden championship leader fifth. And if the race is to finish at this point, that won't leave Joseph Newgarden too displeased, because he has more than doubled his championship advantage with where he is in fifth and where Alexander Rossi is right at the tail end of this field.
Oh, big old bolt I just saw blowing out there in turn 3. Massive lightning just hit.
So this comes as no surprise. We knew that it was coming for a long time, and we were hoping to get as far through the race as we could. Pretty good effort to get to 128 of the 200 laps.
You can see how dark it's gotten over in the turn 3, turn 2 area. That will also be a factor as well if we ever do get back to green, or whether they call this race. We're past half distance, but look at this.
This is what caught my attention, Paul. That's right over by that airport we flew out a couple years ago.
That's a big one. And they've had that happen right here on the circuit in the grandstand, a big metal grandstand. Sadly, a fan was killed by that at a NASCAR race, and we just can't have that. The fans will have to come out of the grandstands and get to a safer place, as well as the teams will have to come off the pit road.
So drivers getting out of the cars, Will Power asking there just for a little bit of assistance, and if this is indeed it for the day, Will Power has driven with such determination and aggression that he made his intention clear right from the beginning. Despite having to come in early for a tyre going down, boy, he's fought his way through the field with great driving and terrific strategy from the team. So if it is to end this way, you're looking at the man who may have a win for the 13th season in a row. He knows that he's not in the championship hunt this year, despite the double points at the end of the season. Mathematically he is, yes, but realistically even will say, you know, my job is to do the best I can for myself and the team and support my teammates, because they are legitimately in the championship hunt. So if this is where it is to be for the day, it's been a terrific day for Will Power.
With the kind of luck he's had this year, he'll take it too.
I asked him how he spent the last couple of weeks free, and he said, we didn't go anywhere, we didn't take a summer break, I trained the whole time. I'm probably fitter now than I've been all year. And this is a guy who sets the bar very high for himself as far as physical conditioning, diet, and so it's all worked out his way. And it has not worked out for this man, Alexander Rossi. So Alexander Rossi there with a pretty straightforward message for Santino Ferrucci if the race is to resume. Alexander Rossi saying he needs Ferrucci to beat the guys up the front to take some points off them.
I tell you, he's gained a lot of people's respect, Santino, this year. He had a rough year last year when he was in Europe and came over here with this bad boy kind of reputation, but he's really won a lot of people over.
And it was really just a false reputation. I mean, the way Ferrucci's come over here, the way he's behaved and performed, you just couldn't imagine anything but a sweetheart guy that has great racecraft and a strong desire to succeed in this business. And he just gets stronger as the year goes on.
Well, look, the fact of the matter is that he did lose his license from the FIA. He did things that the FIA deemed were inappropriate whilst racing in F2. But everybody deserves a second chance, and that's where it gets to your point. He's come over here and made full use of that second chance.
Sure. But I think to Paul's point with Ferrucci, that the suggestion was bad attitude, bad apple.
Yeah, right.
And he's been nothing but a fresh surprise and a pleasant surprise to the series all year with moves like this on and off the track. This was on Pagano earlier, coming out of the pits with a huge run. He knows how treacherous turn 2's been here at Pocono. He backs off, tucks in, looks to make a move out of turn 3 and didn't try to force the issue.
We've seen guys with years and years and years of experience would stuff it in there and try to make the pass and not use their head. And Santino has definitely been using his head all year.
Robin's there. Robin?
All right. The boys in the booth are having a lot of fun watching you. You having as much fun on the racetrack as they are watching you?
I think I'd have more fun than they do. I think they all miss their days back in these cars, that's for sure.
Why do you think you've taken to oval so quickly? And it just seems like the faster you go, the better you go.
Well, I feel like it's a trust thing, you know, and I trust the people around me. I trust that they're going to build me a stout race car, and, you know, I believe in our equipment, and I'm going to do what they tell me to do, have respect for the track, and go from there. And, you know, I think that learning curve has really paid off.
Now, at the start, you had some fun at the start, did you not? Let's look at this. I think we're going to show you the start of this thing.
Oh, yeah.
Did you, I think you went high, and then you went low, and then here, you talk us through it.
Yeah, you know, obviously I'm sitting behind Seb. Seb's obviously the vet driver, and I want to follow him, and I want to keep up with him. And I saw Spencer on the outside, and, you know, Pancho on the radio telling me, if you want the high line, it's clear. So I was going up there, just hanging out, and Spencer checked up a little bit mid-corner, and I just put my foot down, and, you know, I wanted to follow Sebastian, and he started to go low, and I was like, I'm going to stay up in the top side. You know, I can see the track, and then the second this wreck happened, I didn't even brake, I didn't even lift, I just kept my foot in it, because I knew it was coming back up the track at some point, and that was the best chance I'd have at surviving.
We're talking about Pancho Carter, your spotter, who was a great race driver in his own right. He's really got you thinking highline, like at Iowa. You were the show at Iowa, too.
Man, that guy's got me in a completely different mindset, and I can't thank him enough. He's part of the reason we're so dang quick around these places. You know, he's coaching me through it lap by lap, telling me what to do, how the gaps are going. You know, he's consistently pushing me to drive harder myself, too, and as a young rookie, that's all you could ever ask.
So the teams have grabbed the cars because a message from race control has said that everybody needs to head to the respective garage areas under the blanket of safety, with severe weather is moving in very rapidly. As we check in with Dylan Welsh.
And down here looking at the radar like you guys are, so with Mike Cole, the strategist for Scott Dixon. So first things first, Scott was on the radio under green there talking about the balance change. What can you tell us just about what went wrong there?
Well, I don't know what went right. We had a little bit of push, so the natural thing is to add a little front wing, which we did, and we just changed tires. And in fact, that set was a little bigger stagger, which we would thought help get the car around the corner, and we had more push. Tire pressures came right up to where they were supposed to be, so you guys can figure it out from there.
And if we don't go back going racing here, another second place finish for you guys. That's 3 in the last 4 races, including that win at Mid-Ohio. You guys are kind of hitting your stride. Do you feel like you're in a right spot, in a good spot here to make a run at this championship?
Well, first of all, I hope we get to race today, because that's why we came. It's meant to be a 500-mile race, not a 400-mile race. So let's hope for everybody's sake we get to race today. If we can't, we've had a good run, but after this event, we've got 3 more events. And as we know, anything can happen. We saw that today with somebody that was in the championship. They had a tough day. So you just don't want it to happen to you, and you want to have the best result you can. And for us, we've said it before, but we're process people, and we work on today. And we take what it gives us, and then when it's all done, somebody tells us where we are on the points.
And you made that comment to me too this morning, the process people comment, and you guys got undercut kind of in the pits. Somebody pitted before you guys. You had to adapt on the fly, but that's what makes this team so good, isn't it?
Well, I think they hold the race, right? Yeah. And you have to react. You have history, obviously, to help you make calls, but you have to react to what's going on the racetrack as well as in the pit lane. And I think we made the right calls today. And we'll see how it works out for us.
Yeah, they're sitting pretty right now in second, and I believe Robin has the driver of the 9 car.
Well, we were talking on the air, Dix, that 4 races ago you were almost 100 points out of this thing, and now you're right back in it. I mean, it's amazing how much ground you've made up with a win, 2 seconds, and now another great finish.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens here. I don't know. Have they called it?
No, I don't think they called it.
I don't know. Honestly, the car was really good. That last pit stop there, we put some front wing in and made a tire pressure change to help the car turn. And whatever tires we put on, man, I just have plow. I can't even turn the car. That's why I got stuck behind some of the lap traffic there. So yeah, I'm not sure I really want it to go again, but obviously for the fans and for everybody else, we need to. The next 15 to 20 laps on that set of tires is going to be pretty rough. So maybe we can change up the strategy and come in and get another set there pretty quickly. But yeah, it's been an interesting day. I was saying it almost feels like a 24-hour race. You're kind of getting out of the car. Dario was on the stand. I asked him if he was ready to get in, but he didn't want to get in.
No, he's got way too much money to get back in one of these. But you're a race-to-race guy, but isn't it kind of amazing how much ground you made up in such a short amount of time?
It just shows you with the platform that we have that how quickly it can change, and split situations like happened on the start there that took Rossi out. I think Newgarden's having a bit of a rough day, but yet again it looks like he started to march up. So it's you're never out of it until you're mathematically out of it, and we'll keep our head down and try to keep charging on. But really just glad that everybody was okay after that first accident.
All right, good job, Kevin.
So we were thinking about maybe waiting until something is official and not jumping the gun, but we don't even need to talk about that at this point. But Will Power and I are walking just in case, because it sounds like it's going to pour here any moment, which would be the end of things. So what's your mindset right now? Rain dance, rain walk, rain jog?
Rain whatever. As long as it rains, man. As soon as my spotter said, hey, looks like it's going to rain, we need to go, before that I just fuel turned down, saving fuel, sitting behind those guys, and knew we could get them through the exchange. But car's great. Would have been cool to just keep going green. Like when they let me go there, it was a lot of fun. The car felt good. So Yeah, man, I'd be so over the moon to win a race. I tell you, it's been the toughest season of my career, and you're just so over the moon.
I have more questions for you, but we may save those for victory lane. So I'm going to continue stalking you, and we'll go find a dry spot and maybe talk to you in a few minutes.
Yeah, copy that. Thank you.
Rain whatever was the message from Will Power, and his wish just may come true. Very serious storms in the area. 128 laps have been run, and more than likely that will be all that are run. Very much has that feel here in Pocono, like almost daytime has turned to dark. These really gloomy skies above and serious storms in the immediate area. That has sent everybody to safe zones and cover here at the racetrack, and understandably so. The stands are almost clear, with everybody seeking shelter. The winds have increased, the lightning around, and where we sit right now, just waiting on an official word from race control, but it's Will Power in the best position. We just heard from him, and look at those. Look at the lightning here. Wow. That pretty much tells the story of the remainder of the day here at Pocono, which quite often say these races have a little bit of everything, but today really did. That monstrous first lap crash and a couple of other drivers crashing out, which leaves us with this running order right now. And interesting to hear Will Power's words of he was kind of in conservation mode there for a while, and as soon as he was told to go, he turned it up and went after it and grabbed that lead from Scott Dixon.
Appeared to have plenty of speed in the bag. 3 of the 4 championship contenders occupying the top 3 spots. It was Alexander Rossi that was really the biggest victim in that first lap accident. He sits 18th right now if the race were to be called. Further back, Ericsson had a pretty good day going. I'm sure he would like to see this race restarted. Colton Herder with an accident, Spencer Pickett as well. Lots of drama there, Paul, out on the track.
Absolutely, but the two guys that have had the smartest drive of the day is Will Power. He went to the back of the field, worked his way back up, caught a lucky break on a yellow, which moved him back towards the front, but he's had the speed and the moves that Santino Ferrucci has made. Another great run for him.
I think just circling back around and repeating the news that Felix Rosenqvist has undergone all of the tests at hospital and has been released. He will be on his way back to the track, so he is fine. So points as they are now, still waiting confirmation that the race has been called, and once we have that, we can say these will be the points we take to the next race next weekend at Gateway. 35 now the advantage for Joseph Newgarden. It was 16 at the beginning of the day, so that was productive for him. Frustrating for Rossi.
Absolutely, but hey, double points at Laguna Seca. It's wide open, and Scott Dixon is now back in the picture.
3 weeks in a row before a break and then the season finale. So today here in Pocono, next week, as I mentioned, Gateway Motorsports Park. Then we've got the Grand Prix of Portland, and then a couple of weekends off before finishing the season off on NBC. IndyCar's return to WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. There is a lot of excitement about that. This guy's going to be pretty excited as well. Could be win #1 on the year for Will Power. Quite gloomy scenes here above Pocono Raceway after 128 laps of the ABC Supply 500. Everybody seeking shelter and just waiting for an update on the finality of this race, which I think seems pretty obvious at the moment. Let's check in with Robin Miller.
All right, we got Joseph Newgarden, the point leader. Simon Pagenaud, who's in 3rd place. Pretty good day, brother. You doubled your points. You're 35. If this thing's called, you're 35 points ahead right now going to Gateway. So it came out pretty well, even though you weren't champion of the car.
Dude, it's been a weird weekend. You know, we missed the qualifying thing, which was kind of difficult, I think, for the fans because they wanted to see that. And then today it's just been hit and miss with the weather. Obviously, the delay at the start didn't help. But you know, if we roll out of here with the top 5, it's
kind of like yesterday. It's not the worst thing that could have happened. You know, we got to start on the pole, and if we roll out of here with that, then we're going to be okay. We just got to be a little bit better in Gateway, and then obviously got 2 more after that. So I feel good. I think Hitachi had a good car today, just kind of ran out of time, didn't make the most of the beginning, so we'll go on to the next one, see where we're at.
All right, Simon, they just officially called this. You're 40 points out of first. You had a really good car today. Got caught in some traffic. Looked like you had the car to beat.
Yeah, it was fun, especially at the start. But yeah, we just wrong place, wrong time a lot of the time. I've experienced that in sports car racing sometimes. It just happens. Bit of a shame because I think, you know, if that didn't happen, we would be in a different place on the track and probably could have held first or second. Will was really fast at the end there, but we had an adjustment we wanted to do on the last stint, and I think the car would have come alive again. So it is what it is. You know, you can't be disappointed when you win Indy. So, but it's good. It's a good points there, of course. Yeah, got to keep going though.
All right, we'll go to the winner, Kevin.
13 straight wins now. Will Power has won an IndyCar race. You saw while Robin was talking to Jofas just a moment ago when he was told by Joe Hodge from IndyCar, you got the Firestone hat. It's official. Your rain dance worked, even though it hasn't started raining, but it is coming.
It looks really bad, actually, and I thought if this cloud cover comes over and it doesn't rain us, it's just not my year. But over the moon, man. I had a few issues during the race, but we just kept coming back. So full credit to the team. Great car. I kind of just hung there, saved fuel. When it was time to go, I went, and yeah, I was so determined. I really wanted to win, man. Like it would be my 13th year in a row winning races, so I actually had been thinking about that. But I simply just wanted to win a race for the team and for Verizon. You know, these guys have worked their ass off all year, and you know, just haven't had the results.
You told me you kind of changed your mindset a couple of races ago, considering where things were in the championship.
Yeah, I just let go, man. Just let go. I was like, it's not going to happen for me this year, so just whatever. Just still did my homework and worked hard at it, and yep, we definitely had the car today and great stops, and the strategy was right. So man, over the moon. I've honestly worked harder for this year than any other year. Like, I was very determined, and it just didn't work for me.
So you fall back to the back, taking debris in that early caution. How did you get back to the front?
Yeah, well, you know, I passed a few cars, saved a lot of fuel. Obviously, we topped off, so we had laps in hand, and then would really push through the sequences, which gave us, that's how we jumped more cars. Obviously, we caught a great yellow, moved us to second, then we caught a bad yellow, and that moves back to 7th. But the car was fast enough. I knew if we were in that top 5, we'd have a shot at the win.
Relief, congratulations. Now, go get out of the rain.
Absolutely, thank you.
And there's some good sportsmanship amongst the teammates. Long-time friends, long-time rivals, but Simon Pagenaud, Will Power, they're congratulating each other, and they had 2 very fast race cars today. So, fellas, we started today by talking about 3 weeks ago at Mid-Ohio, Joseph Newgarden making that unforced error on the line, pushing for the podium, and instead of coming away 4th, he had a 14th place finish. Here we are here, lap 1, Alexander Rossi, you know, the favorite, one of the favorites for this race. It ends this way, totally unexpected.
Yeah, and just wrong place, wrong time for Rossi and Ryan Hunter-Reay and several more cars in this massive accident. So glad that everybody was able to come out of this uninjured. But for Rossi, big championship implication, and things just continue to tighten up now with Dixon 52 points out. You know, 4 races ago, we didn't think that was possible.
Sure.
Dixon's come back, and I just get the feeling now all of a sudden that Simon Pagenaud quietly is a factor. And he's been fast here at a track where we didn't think he's normally had a lot of success and would maybe be a little soft.
What do you think, PT? Well, great strategy by Roger Penske today, and you said it. That could be the winning top-up, and that's really what gave Power that ability to jump to the front.
Even though we only did 128 laps today, it feels like 200. It's been one of those days. It really has. And most importantly, we are thankful that those drivers involved in that very scary collision are all okay, including Felix Rosenquist, just released from hospital after those final checks. Hey, coming up next here on NBCSN, it is Premier Lacrosse League. It is the Whipsnakes and the Redwoods. That's right next, but we look forward to the next race, which is only a few days away. The NTT INDYCAR Series continues. right here on your home of motorsport, Saturday at 8 o'clock Eastern. Yes, some night racing for the Bommarito Automotive Group 500. We say congratulations to Will Power. He's a winner in 2019.